Chapter 541. Oh, I forgot I can't speak. What is this thing? Bipolar saw something that he had never heard of before. The man was holding a small item the size of a wristwatch, and the watch screen showed peculiar creatures composed of pixels. The Vice Sect Master may not know, this is a product of the Mingjiang world, called digital creatures. They live in the cyber world. There are various types and the quantity is particularly many. This one is a baby, they can evolve, super evolve, and ultimate evolve. Bipolar felt his intelligence was being rubbed on the ground back and forth. Do you want to come down the mountain by yourself or should I deliver you down? The man grimaced and silently retreated to the side. You're standing in the wrong spot, this is the clearing area, you should go on the opposite side. Someone reminded. Oh, the man moved to the other side. He had tried his best, but no beast cubs were willing to follow him. Why did the beast cubs keep away from him? Was it because he was a butcher who had killed thousands of pigs? Qi Sha Daozi, Rain Little Meng, and Li Jiaojiao all had a large group of beast cubs following them, with Qi Sha Daozi having the most. The three of them passed without any surprises. Bipolar nodded, extremely satisfied with these three. He thought they were promising talents. Qi Sha Daozi stood to one side, waiting for Zhang Li to appear. Zhang Li was the last to appear. A few small, chirping birds followed behind him, their feathers multicolored, and they looked extremely noble. Are these young celestial peacocks? Bipolar was very surprised. Celestial peacocks are very proud and domineering among the beast cubs and rarely get close to humans. Besides, the celestial peacocks also have another characteristic, they like to challenge the strong. The most famous legend is about a celestial peacock king at the heavenly immortal stage who swallowed a Buddha who had already reached the state of mixture of nothingness. Fortunately, the Buddha was compassionate and did not kill. Otherwise, the celestial peacock king would have been killed no matter how many lives he had. Speaking nicely, it's challenging the strong. Speaking unpleasantly, it's courting death. Zhang Li walked along, and the celestial peacocks followed him all the way, persistently pecking at his Achilles' heels with their beaks. Zhang Li was helpless. He was just thinking about how to deal with this situation when a group of young celestial peacocks started following him, adopting a provocative posture and battling with their beaks. Seeing the immense energy hidden in Zhang Li's body, the young celestial peacocks developed a will to fight, wanting to defeat this human and prove their strength. They didn't care about bullying the weak. If they fought the strongest. The young celestial peacocks were itching for a fight. The blood in their bodies innately gave them the impulse for action. Flapping their wings, they pecked at people fiercely. Then, everyone saw this scene unfold. Zhang Li's face was peculiar. He picked up a young peacock and looked at it from left to right, unable to understand why the little thing was so eager to start a fight. So it's you, Song Li. You're quite impressive to have the proud celestial peacocks follow you. You're sure to achieve something on the path of beast taming. Bipolar couldn't understand the situation, so he guessed that Zhang Li had a constitution that attracted young beasts. In young celestial peacocks' views, Bipolar, who was in the body integration realm, wasn't a strong enough opponent to challenge. If they had to challenge someone, they would start with those in the realm of infinite immortals. So, the celestial peacocks were rarely seen in the immortal realm. The last person to pass was Zhang Li. With this, the second test ended. Next, the third test will begin. This test will determine your understanding of the Taming Beast Immortal Classic. There was a commotion among the people. The Taming Beast Immortal Classic was the fundamental cultivation technique of the beast control sect. How could they know the Taming Beast Immortal Classic? Silence. Bipolar raised his hand, cast a mute spell on everyone, and began speaking leisurely. The Taming Beast Immortal Classic is a whole, the big can be derived from the small, and Lotus Peak's founder True Man Zhuang realized this while in seclusion. He received a single sentence, and using this sentence as a foundation, he deduced the entire Taming Beast Immortal Classic. I'll teach you the mantra of the first level of the Taming Beast Immortal Classic, which is the gift from heaven that True Man Zhuang first received. You will deduce the rest based on this sentence. I will determine the ranking and selection of beast control sect disciples based on what you deduce. Did you hear that clearly? The crowd was silent. Bipolar frowned, feeling that the new disciples lacked mental strength. Even such news could shock them into speechlessness. Did you hear that clearly? It was still silent. Zhang Li raised his hand and asked, could it be because the mute spell you put on them hasn't been lifted? Bipolar suddenly realized but immediately noticed something was wrong. Bipolar looked at Zhang Li skeptically with her differently colored pupils. Then how can you speak? Oh, I forgot that I couldn't speak. Zhang Li quickly closed his mouth, pretending that nothing had happened. Quote. Bipolar didn't care too much. She lifted the mute spell and recited the first stanza of the Taming Beast Immortal classic, all creatures have destiny. All creatures have spirits, shiny sky, equality among all beings. Everyone hurriedly memorized it. This was the Taming Beast Immortal classic. During the era when the heavenly ladder still existed, they could achieve immortality just through this scripture. Even if it's only the first sentence, it's still extremely precious. The Taming Beast Immortal classic can not only be practiced by humans but also by the Yao race. If the Yao race practiced the Taming Beast Immortal classic, they could fully develop their potential, perfectly control their bodies, and maintain their optimal condition in battles. Therefore, Rain Little Meng and Li Jiaojiao treasured this opportunity immensely. Qi Sha Daozi pondered carefully and was suddenly enlightened. He blurted out, all creatures have destiny. All creatures have spirits, shiny sky, equality among all beings. Kill, wait, why did I mix up with the Qi Sha tablet? The opening line of the Taming Beast Immortal classic is interesting. Zhang Li smiled faintly at the corners of his mouth. I don't know how far off the Taming Beast Immortal classic I'll deduce from the real version. Although I'm not talented in taming beasts, no one is stronger than me when it comes to deducing scriptures. Zhang Li was very confident. He had created an unprecedented number of scriptures and had even caused system source codes to become gibberish. Let me see how you have deduced the scripture. Bipolar called a halt. Please take a look. Someone with a smile more confident than Zhang Li's was certain they would be able to enter the beast control sect. Your work is exactly the same as the first half of the Taming Beast Immortal classic. Bipolar wasn't surprised but instead let out a cold chuckle. The true man of the Yellow Emperor, a heavenly immortal, secluded himself for 50 years to create the Taming Beast Immortal classic. However, you reached this level in just a few hours. The man's forehead was full of sweat. Speak, who told you the contents of the Taming Beast Immortal classic? Bipolar glared fiercely, her beautiful heterochromatic eyes full of overwhelming pressure. The man was so scared that he fell to his knees and stuttered that it was given by a certain outer disciple of the beast control sect. Take him away and see what else he knows. Bipolar waved her hand and instructed the disciples on both sides to take the man away for questioning. Someone dared to disclose the contents of the Taming Beast Immortal classic to outsiders. This matter must be thoroughly investigated. Next, Chapter 542. Rain Little Meng nervously recited to Bipolar the incantation she had comprehended herself. You show me yourself. Rain Little Meng demonstrated some of the divine skills of the Jiaoran race, and practiced some hand-to-hand combat. She found that her control over her physical body was improving, and accordingly, the divine skills she demonstrated and the power of her close combat were also increasing. Bipolar nodded his head. Not bad, although it is raw, there is already 1/10 the magic of Taming Beast Immortal classic. You are a good candidate for cultivating the classic. You are the little princess of the Jiaoran clan, right? I've seen you when I was a guest at the Jiaoran clan, but you were small then and probably don't remember me. I suggested to your mother that you should get out more and it seems she took my advice. You have passed. Rain Little Meng jumped with joy. Li Jiaojiao also recited her incantation. You demonstrate. Li Jiaojiao's situation was similar to Rain Little Meng's, both had improved their physical control and combat power. Not bad either, you are from the Jiaolong clan, but your bloodline is constantly evolving towards the dragon, all branches of the dragon, your talent is rare, and your talent also shows in the Taming Beast Immortal classic you have comprehended. You have also passed. Li Jiaojiao hopped joyfully, intentionally hopping 2 inches higher than Rain Little Meng. The two seemed about to squabble again when Qi Sha Daozi stepped forward and recited his insights from the classic. If he passed the third test, he would become a disciple of the beast-taming sect, and Qi Sha Daozi wouldn't dare to do that. He intentionally comprehended the Taming Beast Immortal classic as something completely unrelated to beast taming. Qi Sha Daozi looked expectantly at Bipolar, waiting for her to announce his failure. Your cultivation technique is a bit interesting. Qi Sha Daozi felt something was wrong. Her heterochromic eyes continuously examined Qi Sha Daozi's version of the Taming Beast Immortal classic. You must be a sword cultivator, with unique insights in the sword Dao field, trying to connect the sword Dao of emotion and the sword Dao of emotionless, am I right? You also know about the 7-killing monument, incorporating the murderous air from the monument into the classic. Although there are many inconsistencies, it's very creative. My eyes can analyze cultivation techniques, and any cultivation technique can be broken down into simple and understandable forms. My eyes can also deduce the effects of the cultivation technique. Although not as powerful as Zhou Huang's heavy pupils, my heterochromic eyes are also rare in the immortal realm. You can enter my beast taming. Wait, Qi Sha Daozi quickly interrupted Bipolar, my technique has nothing to do with beast taming at all. How can it not? Bipolar asked with a smile full of meaning. What race is Rain Little Meng? Zhaoren clan. What is your relationship with Rain Little Meng? Boyfriend girlfriend. What race is Li Zhaozhao? Zhaolong clan. What is your relationship with Li Zhaozhao? Li Zhaozhao rushed to answer before Qi Sha Daozi could, boyfriend girlfriend. Bipolar clapped her hands and spread them again. See, you are the boyfriend of 2 demonesses. What's the key to beast taming? It's fighting alongside demonesses. To do this, you need to have an intimate relationship with the demonesses. Your kind of intimate relationship is rare even within the beast taming sect. And maybe you haven't noticed, but the Taming Beast Immortal Classic you've comprehended can be applied to your 2 girlfriends. If you don't believe it, you can try. Qi Sha Daozi, half believing, operated a rough version of Taming Beast Immortal Classic, and placed his hands on the backs of Rain Little Meng and Li Zhaozhao. The 2 women sensed a faint sword intent running inside them. They often saw Qi Sha Daozi using his swordsmanship and were troubled that they could not learn it. Unexpectedly, they now also had sword intent. There was not much sword intent, just a strand, but it was enough to illustrate some issues. Perform a divine skill at will. Bipolar ordered from the side. The 2 girls subconsciously executed a water element divine skill, creating a water column. This water column contained a trace of sword intent. Bipolar then summoned other Beast Clan members. When 7 Kills Taoist placed his hand on one of the Beast Clan members, this person did not generate any sword intent within him. Do you see it now? This is the effect of the Taming Beast Immortal Classic you've created. You were destined to be part of our Taming Beast sect. Come to our sect, my husband will take you in as a direct disciple. Bipolar said assertively and included 7 Kills Taoist amongst the sect members. 7 Kills Taoist felt like dying at that very moment. He couldn't even begin to imagine Sword Monarch's reaction when he learns about this. Song Li, tell us about the cultivation technique you have comprehended. Bipolar made the request nonchalantly, somewhat unconvinced by Song Li. Everyone else achieved state of meditation for hours, deeply contemplating. But Song Li only meditated for half an hour and ended it, wandering around leisurely. He even extended his fingers to let a celestial peacock chick peck at them. How good could a cultivation technique written in half an hour be? Alright, the more Bipolar heard, the more uneasy she felt. She found that she couldn't understand what he was saying at all. It was like trying to understand some inexplicable scripture. In the beginning, she could keep up, but she got distracted afterwards. It was like she had missed 2 4-hour lessons worth of information. She couldn't catch up at all. Repeat what you've said. Forget it, I'll just write it down. Zhong Li pulled out a paper and pen, and he proceeded to write down the Zhong Li version of the Taming Beast Immortal Classic. This cultivation technique you've written. Bipolar's eyes brightened. She tried to comprehend and deduce the cultivation technique Zhong Li wrote. The further she tried to comprehend it, the deeper she found the cultivation technique to be. Her pridefully heterochromic eyes couldn't provide a semblance of help. The most important thing was, the early part of this technique was similar to the original Taming Beast Immortal Classic, but it was simpler and easier to understand. But she couldn't understand the content in the latter part at all. Briefly introduce your written Immortal Classic. My Taming Beast Immortal Classic has many wonderful uses. I'll just mention the main functions. This Immortal Classic can control all things. It is divided into 3 stages: minor accomplishment, intermediate accomplishment, and major accomplishment. The key lies in your spiritual power. The stronger your spiritual power, the greater the things you can control. Even if the opponent is 1 rank higher than you, if your spiritual power is stronger than theirs, you can control them all the same. At the stage of minor accomplishment, one can control their own or their own beast clan's body. At the stage of intermediate accomplishment, one can control the body of others, making them helpless. At the stage of major accomplishment, one can control the entire world. The world moves aimlessly in the void, but using this cultivation technique, one can change the direction of the world's movement. Bipolar felt as if the other party was just countering her, writing down a bunch of incomprehensible things just to bluff her. Then showcase the cultivation technique you've comprehended. Use your full strength, don't hold back. Use my full strength. I'm worried that I won't be able to control the power if I use my full strength. Zhong Li thought that he must have misheard. Don't worry, I'm here. No matter how big of a trouble you cause, I can handle it. With Bipolar's assurance, Zhong Li felt at ease. Let's skip minor accomplishment, it's not interesting. I will directly showcase intermediate accomplishment. Zhongli made no actions, he just looked at Bipolar quietly. Bipolar then found that her body was completely out of her control, raising her hand, blinking, walking. She tried her best to resist, but it was futile. Cold sweat was trickling down Bipolar's forehead because even though these actions seemed simple, but in an actual fight, they could be lethal. This is major accomplishment. Zhongli looked up at the sky but did not make any other movements. However, the starry sky above his head began to move rapidly. The sky was filled with constellations and they all turned into shooting stars, swirling across the sky. In a blink of an eye, the entire land experienced a shift from day to night, and then from night to day again. The speed was so fast that it felt like an illusion. If someone was observing the world from the void, they would notice that the land didn't move even the tiniest bit. Instead, with the continent at the center, the entire world's starry sky was rotating around it. After one full rotation, the constellations returned to their original positions. The star shift could not have been better demonstrated. Chapter 543, I'm a middleman between two worlds. Announcing special mission, searching for the heavenly ascension fragment, the tranquil world of Qin Shin, a tech world that has experienced 3 industrial revolutions, holds technological products not found in JoJo world, such as cell phones, computers, and tablets. You are to sell these tech products of Qin Shin world in JoJo world and earn 10,000 premium spirit stones through these trades. The host can freely travel between the worlds during the mission. Mission reward, 1 heavenly ascension fragment. Sell cell phones and computers in JoJo world and earn 10,000 premium spirit stones. Zhongli feels the system is joking with him. Mingzhong world is considering selling their quantum computers in JoJo. And now, you tell me I can make money by selling cell phones. Even if he can earn 1 spirit stone, it will be considered an achievement for Zhongli. Quantum computers represent the culmination of the tech industry in Mingzhong world. They can be used like phones or computers, project 3D movies, are equipped with artificial intelligence, and can be controlled by thoughts. They are far superior to any tablets. Mingzhong world has gone through at least 7 industrial revolutions. Even if I'm to act as a peddler between the two worlds, at least let me sell decent products. The system probably thinks that the JoJo monks haven't seen a cell phone before, and would be tempted to buy them at a high price. Zhongli feels a headache coming on, all the tasks given by the system are unreliable. Zhongli also notes that the system describes Qin Shin world as peaceful. Does Qin Shin have no interference from the immortal realm? Let's go take a look first. Is this the Qin Shin world? Zhongli, standing on a collapsed tower, appears puzzled. Zhongli is in a vast continent that is about 1/3 of the size of JoJo world. That's an impressive size. There are collapsed majestic buildings, charred corpses, hanged mountains, dried up oceans, broken falling stars, fragments of spiritual energy all devoid of any sign of sentient life. Obviously, this place has experienced a catastrophe of annihilation. Zhongli jumps down from the tower and picks up a broken spiritual treasure. Such spiritual treasures are strewn all over the place. This is not a tech world, but a cultivation world. The charred corpses aren't human remains but those of a body integration realm cultivator who had been burned alive. A body integration cultivator, who has achieved tri-unity, being burned to death, one can only imagine the torments he had to undergo before his death. Has the system's teleportation function finally broken down? The more events Zhongli experiences, the more he feels the system is useless. Even the most useful feature, finding the fragment of the heavenly ascension ladder, is now broken and unbearable to look at. Idle people are really hard done by, to cultivate to the Mahayana realm with such a difficult-to-use system. Zhongli jests, while he looks for clues. The system's teleportation doesn't make mistakes. This must be Qin Shin world, only he doesn't understand why it altered from a tech world to a cultivation world. Zhongli contacts Bai Hongtu and tests the speed of time. 500 years have passed in JoJo, while they had only experienced 100 years here. So much has changed in 100 years. Zhongli enters the tower and observes a skeleton with his divine sense, lying on a desk, seemingly writing something till its dying breath. It was protecting a notebook even in death, thus preserving it from the disaster. This deceased cultivator seems to be akin to a historian, recording the broad history of this world. The language rules are the same. Zhongli scans all text with his divine sense and infers their meanings contextually. This computational quantity wouldn't pose any difficulty for Zhongli's divine sense. Our world, named Jingyu world, is a long-established cultivation civilization, having produced 2 ascended immortals. These two ascended immortals, one upright, one evil, ascended simultaneously. Before their ascension they left behind two schools of thought. The followers of the two schools in Jingyu world have been engaged in open and covert conflicts for 10,000 years without any resolution. In the past 1,000 years, two talented disciples emerged from the upright and evil schools. They were referred to as the young immortals, likely to emulate the landmark of simultaneous ascension by the upright and evil immortals, thereby increasing Jingyu world's influence in the immortal realm. These two people lived up to expectations, attracting numerous opportunities and both advanced to the Transcendence Tribulation stage. However, disaster struck unexpectedly. A strange-looking immortal-level creature appeared in Jingyu world. This creature spewed numerous monsters from its body ranging from the body integration stage to the foundation establishment stage, wreaking havoc. During this catastrophe, the whole of Jingyu world united. High-ranking cultivators came forth to combat the body integration stage and divinity transformation stage monsters. The leaders of both upright and evil schools joined forces to resist the enemy, wielding immortal artifacts to confront the immortal-level creature. The two Transcendence Tribulation stages used the immortal artifacts to confront the mindless immortal-level creature and had a 60% chance of success, but suddenly the evil leader shouted out. A face emerged from the skin of the immortal-level creature, the face of the evil immortal who had ascended to the immortal world 10,000 years ago. The evil leader broke down mentally, the upright leader struggled hard, but in the end mortal humans cannot withstand the relentless power of an immortal. The leaders of both good and evil perished inside the mouth of the immortal-level creature. The battle lines were shattered, perhaps out of disdain. The immortal-level creature did not do any more damage, yet the monsters it gave birth to continued their massacre. The battle continued for several months. During this time, they saw the dawn of victory many times, but soon, they realized that those were just false hopes. After 3 months, Jingyu world was annihilated. I am perhaps the last survivor. A monster is currently standing outside the tower. It is staring at me, its huge eyes filling up the entire window. It seems I will die now. If there are any survivors, I hope you remember this history and restore our Jingyu world's prosperity. Wait, what's that? Something unusual is happening with the stars. The notes end here. The last stroke of the pen is a long straight line. Perhaps the monster had gobbled up the last man of Jingyu world, and he was holding the pen when he died, leading to this scene. Zhang Li puts away the notebook with mixed feelings. What does he mean? The stars are changing. Zhang Li expands his divine sense, scanning every inch of the earth. He finds an orb of memory, which records the scenes before the world was destroyed. The memory orb shows a terrifying voice echoing throughout the world, foretelling its destruction. The voice is deep, causing an inexplicable annoyance upon hearing, soon after which the stars crack, space fractures, and large stars fall. Even a heavenly immortal would not dare to provoke this horror. A flaw appeared in the sky, but contrary to usual where a flaw leads to winds blowing from the void, it revealed the stars of another world. Did a collision happen between worlds? Zhang Li looks up abruptly. He had not noticed this abnormality earlier, presuming the stars were as usual. Only now he realized Jingyu world and Qinshin world had collided. Jingyu world's stars vibrated and fell due to the shock. The stars overhead in Zhang Li's current location are partly from Qinshin world. The system did not make an error in teleportation. Jingyu world and Qinshin world are linked together now. Zhang Li invokes the shopping feature, finding items from Jingyu world as well as Qinshin world inside. This places both Jingyu world and Qinshin world. Chapter 544, Classic Gemstone Gambling. The void was as vast as the sea, boundless and infinite, with worlds in it like fish in the sea. Worlds drifted in the void according to no discernible pattern. Up, down, left, right, front, back, everything was unknown. As such, the possibility of collisions between worlds existed. Zhang Li, when traveling through the void, had observed on multiple occasions two worlds brushing past each other, narrowly avoiding collisions by mere tens of light years. However, a collision had never actually occurred. This was the first time Zhang Li was witnessing a collision between worlds. Is this a natural disaster or man-made catastrophe? Zhang Li pondered. Just like the effect of mastering the Taming Beast Immortal Classic, he could control the direction of a world. If he wished, he could casually cause worlds to collide. Zhang Li estimated that a golden immortal might achieve a similar effect, forcing worlds to collide. If this is the doing of the immortal realm, then what's the purpose? There's nothing left of the Jingyu world anyway. Zhang Li purchased the latest edition of dictionary, history books, and encyclopedia of the Qinshin world from the system store, learning that Qinshin world was also a continent world. Its history didn't have anything notable and its level of technology was slightly higher than described by the system. He also bought an astronomical map drawn by Qinshin World. Using the positions of the stars they had observed, Zhongli could deduce the position of the Qinshin continent. It's about 2,000 million light-years away. Zhongli determined the direction and distance before tearing through space to leap near the Qinshin world. He scanned the surrounding starry sky with his divine sense, further confirming the location. Zhongli looked down at his feet. Due to the spatial disruption caused by the shortcut through space, the exit point distorted, resulting in almost half of a planet being shattered. Still about 1,030,000 light-years off. Seems my precision isn't too bad, and more than half of the planet is still intact. It looks like my mastery of spatial travel has progressed. Zhongli was easily contented. Previously, his spatial ruptures would cause an entire planet at the exit point to distort. Now, only less than half got shattered, which was a significant improvement. After repairing the planet, he once again tore through space to arrive near the Qinshin continent. He smoothly rolled to his feet, spreading his arms wide and standing firmly on the continent. It felt as if I was diving just now. No, it was more like gymnastics. Diving, gymnastics, sports. Perhaps I should organize a sports meet in Jochu. Maybe events like short runs around the stars, long runs across the galaxy, swimming across the 4 seas, weightlifting with mountains. Zhongli thought it seemed quite feasible. Zhongli's mind wandered, thinking of random things. While concocting ideas for the 9 provinces sports meet, he took a leisurely stroll around the Qinshin world. He found the world to be quite peaceful. Zhongli visited an internet cafe to play a few games. Despite suffering crushing defeats, he enjoyed himself immensely. As a token of gratitude before leaving, he kindly reported the presence of underage individuals to the Market Supervision and Management Bureau. Zhongli visited a street stall to play a dart-throwing game, earning enough money for a day's meals. He then went on to the food street, using the money he had just earned to eat his way through the stalls. When he saw someone falling into the water, he casually gestured and saved them. He didn't leave his name, just saying that when Zhongli does a good deed, he doesn't leave his name, then left nonchalantly. When he saw a child crying below a floating balloon, he gently leapt and returned the balloon to the child. He visited a police station, claiming that he had smuggled himself from another world and wanted to apply for a temporary residence permit. Seeing that Zhongli seemed to be a bit mentally unwell, the police kindly let him stay for lunch. While the police were discussing whether to send Zhongli to a mental hospital, he quietly slipped away. Zhongli returned to the gambling stone field, thinking about winning some money to end the rich day. It's green, it's green. The exaggerated shouts were as loud as the sea, overturning the roof. Before Zhongli had arrived, a lucky young man was choosing stones. This kid is so lucky, he can pick out jade from the waste stones. Just this piece of jade alone is worth hundreds of thousands. Who can say otherwise? At first, everyone thought this kid was a novice trying his luck. Now it seems he was born to gamble on stones. He has bought 8 stones since he came in, all 8 have jade in them. He can earn at least 1.5 million today. The lucky young man was also very excited. His eyes were bright and he carefully selected the stones. He used 1.5 million to buy a stone that has been lying around for 3 years. What a fool. Young people are too impulsive. He's getting carried away. Does he think his luck will last forever? Yes, young people don't know when to stop. Now he's definitely going to lose everything. There's green. This is imperial jade of glass type. What? I'll pay 50 million. 50 million is nothing. I'll pay 70 million. 100 million. Countless wealthy men were ready to spend any amount to buy this stone. In the end, the lucky young man sold the stone for 120 million. Zhongli scratched his neck, feeling like he had seen this scene before in his book, A Mahayana Monk in the City. Wen Quan left the gambling stone field nervously. He hadn't expected to earn so much money this time. It made his heart flutter. I've only reached the first level of heavenly vision, but the effect is terrifying. I can see everything inside a stone clearly. Although it's somewhat dangerous to display my talents in front of others, the risk is worth it. With so much money, I can buy medicinal materials for a medicinal bath and strive to advance to the mid-phase of qi cultivation. While Wen Quan was muttering to himself, a few ruffians blocked his path. Hey boy, you made quite a fortune in the gambling stone field. We happen to be short of money. How about lending some? The ruffian was twirling a knife, looking somewhat frightening. With a slight smile, Wen Quan showed no fear of these thugs wielding weapons. He moved smoothly, dodged the blade with a sidestep, and punched the thugs in their guts. The thugs vomited a bit of bile, clutching their stomachs and writhing on the ground. Wen Quan walked away nonchalantly. Zhang Li followed Wen Quan, noticed a camera overhead, looked down at these thugs, and took them to the police station. Thanks for the meal. I'm bringing you a few guys, attempted robbery. The surveillance showed the whole process. And also, I'm not mentally ill. Zhang Li chose not to reveal himself. The secrets Wen Quan held weren't as simple as just receiving a legacy and being able to cultivate immortality. Wen Quan was soaking in a medicinal bath, calmly guiding the yin and yang energies through his body. Accompanied by a wave of spiritual energy, he officially stepped into the 4th level of Qi cultivation. Finally made it to the mid-stage of Qi cultivation, Wen Quan breathed a sigh of relief. But my heavenly vision is still at the 1st level, with only the most basic sight-piercing ability. I can't see the flow of energy channels in the human body. It won't reach the 2nd level until I reach the peak stage of Qi cultivation. He got out of the medicine bath, got dressed. Just as he was wondering why his sister hadn't come back home yet, his phone rang. Hello, sister. What's up? Are you filming so late? Help. A cry for help came from the other end of the phone, and Wen Quan's face changed drastically. His muscles bulged like an angry lion. Chapter 545. I'm a middleman between two worlds. Announcing special mission, searching for the heavenly ascension fragment, the tranquil world of Qin Xin, a tech world that has experienced 3 industrial revolutions, holds technological products not found in JoJo world, such as cell phones, computers, and tablets. You are to sell these tech products of Qin Xin world in JoJo world and earn 10,000 premium spirit stones through these trades. The host can freely travel between the worlds during the mission. Mission reward: 1 heavenly ascension fragment. Sell cell phones and computers in JoJo world and earn 10,000 premium spirit stones. Zhang Li feels the system is joking with him. Ming Zhang world is considering selling their quantum computers in JoJo. And now, you tell me I can make money by selling cell phones. Even if he can earn 1 spirit stone, it will be considered an achievement for Zhang Li. Quantum computers represent the culmination of the tech industry in Ming Zhang world. They can be used like phones or computers, project 3D movies, are equipped with artificial intelligence, and can be controlled by thoughts. They are far superior to any tablets. Ming Zhang world has gone through at least 7 industrial revolutions. Even if I'm to act as a peddler between the 2 worlds, at least let me sell decent products. The system probably thinks that the JoJo monks haven't seen a cell phone before, and would be tempted to buy them at a high price. Zhang Li feels a headache coming on. All the tasks given by the system are unreliable. Zhang Li also notes that the system describes Qin Xin world as peaceful. Does Qin Xin have no interference from the immortal realm? Let's go take a look first. Is this the Qin Xin world? Zhang Li, standing on a collapsed tower, appears puzzled. Zhang Li is in a vast continent that is about a third of the size of JoJo world. That's an impressive size. There are collapsed majestic buildings, charred corpses, hanged mountains, dried up oceans, broken falling stars, fragments of spiritual energy, all devoid of any sign of sentient life. Obviously, this place has experienced a catastrophe of annihilation. Zhang Li jumps down from the tower and picks up a broken spiritual treasure. Such spiritual treasures are strewn all over the place. This is not a tech world, but a cultivation world. The charred corpses aren't human remains but those of a body integration realm cultivator who had been burned alive. A body integration cultivator, who has achieved tri-unity, being burned to death, one can only imagine the torments he had to undergo before his death. Has the system's teleportation function finally broken down? The more events Zhang Li experiences, the more he feels the system is useless. Even the most useful feature, finding the fragment of the heavenly ascension ladder, is now broken and unbearable to look at. Idle people are really hard done by, to cultivate to the Mahayana realm with such a difficult-to-use system. Zhang Li jests, while he looks for clues. The system's teleportation doesn't make mistakes. This must be Qin Xin world, only he doesn't understand why it altered from a tech world to a cultivation world. Zhang Li contacts Bai Hongtu and tests the speed of time. 500 years have passed in JoJo, while they had only experienced 100 years here. So much has changed in 100 years. Zhang Li enters the tower and observes a skeleton with his divine sense, lying on a desk, seemingly writing something till its dying breath. It was protecting a notebook even in death, thus preserving it from the disaster. This deceased cultivator seems to be akin to a historian, recording the broad history of this world. The language rules are the same. Zhang Li scans all text with his divine sense and infers their meanings contextually. This computational quantity wouldn't pose any difficulty for Zhang Li's divine sense. Our world, named Jingyu World, is a long-established cultivation civilization, having produced 2 ascended immortals. These 2 ascended immortals, one upright, one evil, ascended simultaneously. Before their ascension they left behind 2 schools of thought. The followers of the 2 schools in Jingyu World have been engaged in open and covert conflicts for 10,000 years without any resolution. In the past 1,000 years, 2 talented disciples emerged from the upright and evil schools. They were referred to as the young immortals, likely to emulate the landmark of simultaneous ascension by the upright and evil immortals, thereby increasing Jingyu World's influence in the immortal realm. These 2 people lived up to expectations, attracting numerous opportunities, and both advanced to the Transcendence Tribulation stage. However, disaster struck unexpectedly. A strange-looking immortal-level creature appeared in Jingyu World. This creature spewed numerous monsters from its body, ranging from the body integration stage to the foundation establishment stage, wreaking havoc. During this catastrophe, the whole of Jingyu World united. High-ranking cultivators came forth to combat the body integration stage and divinity transformation stage monsters. The leaders of both upright and evil schools joined forces to resist the enemy, wielding immortal artifacts to confront the immortal-level creature. The 2 Transcendence Tribulation stages used the immortal artifacts to confront the mindless immortal-level creature and had a 60% chance of success, but suddenly the evil leader shouted out. A face emerged from the skin of the immortal-level creature, the face of the evil immortal who had ascended to the immortal world 10,000 years ago. The evil leader broke down mentally, the upright leader struggled hard, but in the end mortal humans cannot withstand the relentless power of an immortal. The leaders of both good and evil perished inside the mouth of the immortal-level creature. The battle lines were shattered, perhaps out of disdain. The immortal-level creature did not do any more damage, yet the monsters it gave birth to continued their massacre. The battle continued for several months. During this time, they saw the dawn of victory many times, but soon, they realized that those were just false hopes. After 3 months, Jingyu World was annihilated. I am perhaps the last survivor. A monster is currently standing outside the tower. It is staring at me, its huge eyes filling up the entire window. It seems I will die now. If there are any survivors, I hope you remember this history and restore our Jingyu World's prosperity. Wait, what's that? Something unusual is happening with the stars. The notes end here. The last stroke of the pen is a long straight line. Perhaps the monster had gobbled up the last man of Jingyu World, and he was holding the pen when he died, leading to this scene. Zhongli puts away the notebook with mixed feelings. What does he mean? The stars are changing. Zhongli expands his divine sense, scanning every inch of the earth. He finds an orb of memory, which records the scenes before the world was destroyed. The memory orb shows a terrifying voice echoing throughout the world, foretelling its destruction. The voice is deep, causing an inexplicable annoyance upon hearing, soon after which the stars crack, space fractures, and large stars fall. Even a heavenly immortal would not dare to provoke this horror. A flaw appeared in the sky, but contrary to usual where a flaw leads to winds blowing from the void, it revealed the stars of another world. Did a collision happen between worlds? Zhongli looks up abruptly. He had not noticed this abnormality earlier, presuming the stars were as usual. Only now he realized Jingyu World and Qinshin World had collided. Jingyu World's stars vibrated and fell due to the shock. The stars overhead in Zhongli's current location are partly from Qinshin World. The system did not make an error in teleportation. Jingyu World and Qinshin World are linked together now. Zhongli invokes the shopping feature, finding items from Jingyu World as well as Qinshin World inside. This places both Jingyu World and Qinshin World. Chapter 546, Survivors of Jingyu World. Wen Quan moved swiftly as if flying, rushing to the location mentioned in his sister's phone call. Wen Quan stormed into the nightclub, kicking open the door with one foot. Sister. Wen Quan's sister's eyes were shimmering with tears. Seeing Wen Quan was like seeing a savior. Wen Quan's sister was named Wen Qinger, a lesser-known star who was even more beautiful than famous ones. The playboy from the Zhang Corporation took a liking to Wen Qinger, and through a director, forced her to accompany him for drinks. Wen Qinger thought it was as simple as having a drink, and the director promised her additional roles in the future, so she agreed. She didn't expect the playboy to grope her after drinking, and even tried to force himself on her. In her panic, Wen Qinger called her younger brother for help. She thought he would call the police, but unexpectedly, he came alone. The playboy sneered from the side, enjoying the reunification of the siblings. The playboy could have forced himself onto Wen Qinger long ago, but he preferred to do so in front of her family. He had seen such scenes where family members were grieved and helpless too many times, but still he never tired of them. So you're Wen Quan, Qing'er's only kin. The playboy remained calm and composed, completely disregarding Wen Quan. Fury. What good would fury do? In the face of absolute power, everything else was empty talk. Don't you dare call her that. Wen Quan roared, his hair bristled with anger. The playboy waved his hand impatiently, signaling his bodyguard to hold Wen Quan down. Unexpectedly, Wen Quan was surprisingly strong, even the champion bodyguard couldn't pin him down. Wen Quan brandished his fist, aiming at the playboy, a blow that could even kill a cow. The playboy widened his eyes in disbelief. So you're a cultivator too? The playboy calmly caught the punch, and with a kick sent him flying. What a pity, I've reached the peak of chi cultivation. Considering that you're a cultivator, after I'm done with your sister, I'll find you a job. What about being my bodyguard? Ha 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 ha, the playboy laughed wildly. After the first exchange of blows, the playboy easily gauged Wen Quan's strength. To him, who was at the peak of chi cultivation, Wen Quan, who was merely on the 4th level of chi cultivation, was like a small ripple in the water. Breaking formation fist. Wen Quan roared and swung his fist. This was his most powerful move. However, it was still useless. The gap in their levels was too large. The playboy toyed with him like a cat playing with a mouse, withholding his full power and keeping Wen Quan conscious. Despite being battered and bruised, Wen Quan showed no signs of pain. He was furious, resolving that even at the cost of his own life, he would kill this beast today. At first, the playboy was playfully countering Wen Quan's moves, but soon, he couldn't laugh anymore. Wen Quan's strength was growing rapidly, each punch stronger than the last, as if a colossal force was surging from within him. I can't play along with this anymore. Break fist. Murderous intent rose in the playboy. He decided to eliminate Wen Quan. He was a potential threat and could not be left alive. Despite coughing up blood from the beating, Wen Quan's madness did not subside. It's not enough. This isn't enough. Give me power. Don't worry about my body. Give me strength. Wen Quan roared, though it was unclear to whom he was speaking. As his words echoed, a pure force surged from Wen Quan's body, in a moment surpassing the playboy and reaching the foundation establishment stage. His skin turned red, like an inflated balloon ready to burst at any moment, showing signs that his blood was at its limit. Power had its price. Breaking formation fist. Wen Quan roared, filled with boundless rage. He took a swing at the playboy. The playboy had never seen this. He was startled and didn't know what to do. Wen Quan landed a punch, making him dizzy. Wen Quan threw punch after punch, beating the young master until he was vomiting blood continuously. His internal organs were displaced, and countless bones in his body were broken. His legs were fractured, and he knelt on the ground. Don't kill me, don't kill me, I can give you money, I can give you a lot of money. The young master felt a chill in his heart, hastily begged for mercy. He realized that Wen Quan was indeed intending to kill him. Keep your money for the king of hell. Wen Quan clenched his fists together, and forcefully hammered down on the young master's head. Just then, something unexpected happened. A ring of white fog emerged from the young master's body and gradually formed into a human figure. The foggy human figure performed a gesture, immobilizing Wen Quan's body. No matter how angry Wen Quan became, he could not move and was unable to deliver this fatal blow. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Interesting. What secret method did you use to temporarily enhance yourself by one major realm, defeating my apprentice? The young master, as if seeing his savior, started crying out loud, Master, you must take revenge for me. Don't worry, he won't get away. The real person of Wenku was calm and unhurried. His appearance meant the overall situation was settled, everything was under his control. Seeing Wen Quan trying to break free from the immobilizing gesture, he arrogantly said, Don't make pointless struggles. I, Wenku, as a cultivator at the divinity transformation stage, even though I only have my soul left, the gestures I perform aren't something a youngster like you can break. Real person Wenku laughed, your soul seems especially strong, it's just right for me to devour it to strengthen my own soul. Saying this, real person Wenku reached out his hand, covering Wen Quan's head, intending to extract his soul. Haha, you're merely at the divinity transformation stage, yet you dare to show off in front of me. A soul also ascended from Wen Quan's body, giving a sidelong glance at real person Wenku. But it was just one glance that made real person Wenku feel like he was falling into an ice cellar. This insignificant youngster actually houses a transcendence tribulation stage soul. The leader of the righteous path, Taoist hymning. Everything became clear. It wasn't that this youngster had anything remarkable about him, but just now Taoist hymning had lent a streak of power to this youngster. Wenku, I didn't expect that even though you're only left with your soul, you're still practicing such despicable acts of bullying and dominating women. What else can you say? Wait, Himing, considering that we're all surviving cultivators of the Jingyu world, spare me this time, I promise I won't do it again next time. Is that your last words? Himing was unmoved. He stretched out his hand and performed a transcendence tribulation stage method, directly refining real person Wenku and the young master, turning the young master's bodyguard into a fool. I didn't expect that there are such damned creatures in every world. Taoist Himing frowned. Sister, are you okay? Wen Quan hurriedly came over to care for his sister. Wen Qinger was still in a state of shock, not because of the actions of the young master, but because of the series of incomprehensible changes that had just occurred. Why would the young master encounter a ghost, and why would her little brother also encounter a ghost? Cough cough. Wen Quan coughed up blood, lost the support of Taoist Himing's power, his body returned to normal, no longer with his skin flushed red. The consequences that followed caused him immense pain. It was as if all the bones in his body had been broken and then reassembled, exceeding the limit of pain a normal person could endure. I told you before, it's too early for you to use my power. Taoist Himing shook his head, disapproving of Wen Quan's actions. Wen Quan's limbs were weak, and he collapsed weakly in his sister's arms. Even a slight movement was incredibly painful for him. Bearing the pain, he wryly said, Master, I know I was wrong. Can you come up with a way to alleviate these side effects? Taoist Himing glared at him. I told you not to be disobedient, bear with it. Wen Qinger was confused about what had happened. Who are you exactly, and does Wen Quan's sudden increase in strength have anything to do with you? Wen Quan said, I originally didn't want to worry you, who would have thought this would happen, it seems there's no hiding it from you now. Quite so, I'm also interested, why not explain it to me as well? Zhang Li entered the room, looking at Taoist Himing and Wen Quan with intense curiosity. Chapter 547, finally met someone who knows about the JoJo world. Who is it? Taoist Himing shouted, glaring fiercely, appearing as majestic as a dragon dominating the sea. His voice thundered with endless oppressive might. If a demon cultivator were to witness this sight, they would tremble in fear, pleading Taoist Himing to spare their lives. To Zhang Li, the overbearing pressure of the Transcendence Tribulation stage was meaningless. He casually gestured, taking back Himing's pressure. Himing felt his pressure uncontrollably return to him, causing him to be taken aback. He couldn't comprehend the technique Zhang Li had used. You have cultivated to the Transcendence Tribulation stage after all, don't be like Bai Hongtu, acting so jumpy without composure. Here, try this calming tea I brewed. It has the effect of concentrating your qi and calming your spirits, as well as rejuvenating your vital energy. Zhang Li handed Wen Qinger a cup of tea. The so-called brewing was simply steeping calming pills in water. It tastes good. Wen Qinger sipped gently from her cup, her color gradually returning. The calming tea was sweet, carrying a hint of freshness. After drinking it, Wen Qinger felt herself calming down gradually. Throughout the ordeal, Zhang Li was constantly alert to prevent anything unexpected from happening. He wouldn't let Wen Qinger suffer humiliation just to discover Wen Quan's secret. By the time Zhang Li turned his attention here, the playboy's fate was sealed. Himing could tell at a glance that this calming tea was neither a product of the Qin Shin world nor the Jingyu world. May I ask where my fellow Taoist hails from? This is not a suitable place to talk, perhaps we can change our location. With a flick of his sleeve, Zhang Li returned Wen Quan and Wen Qinger back to their home. Wen Quan was stunned and lost for words. Could this be the heavenly approach that teacher spoke of? The space-related great divine power? Himing calmly corrected him. No, he just moved you both quickly while you were still startled. Wen Quan was dumbfounded and did not know how to respond. Wen Quan, who was ignorant of cultivation, did not realize how terrifying Zhang Li's move was. The ability to execute such a move was far more difficult than mastering heavenly approach. Transcendence Tribulation stage. No, are you an immortal? Himing couldn't see through Zhang Li. There's no need for formalities. I have yet to become an immortal. We are all ordinary people. We are all fellow Taoists here. My name is Zhang Li, and I hail from the JoJo world. JoJo world, known as the strongest world below the immortal realm. Taoist Himing's sect had experienced the ascension of an immortal, who personally instructed Taoist Himing and mentioned the JoJo world during one of his idle talks. Zhang Li was slightly stunned. This was the first time he had encountered someone who had heard of the JoJo world. Yes, the JoJo world as you understand it. After the ladder to immortality was severed, I had no choice but to find an alternative route. I created the Mahayana stage above the Transcendence Tribulation stage. I'm not an immortal, but my capabilities surpass that of immortals. I am a Mahayana realm cultivator. Himing bowed his fist in respect, saying solemnly, "My sincere apologies." This cultivator who pioneered these methods deserved his respect. So, this is why the ladder to immortality was severed. No wonder I could not find it according to the classics. When the ladder to immortality was severed, I had yet to reach the Transcendence Tribulation stage, and could not sense the existence of the ladder. After reaching the Mahayana stage, I traveled through the 10,000 realms, constantly searching for traces of the immortal realm, and achieved some progress. Himing nodded in understanding, guessing that Zhongli was probably trying to find the immortal realm and ascend to immortality. In my travels through the 10,000 realms, I stumbled upon your world. However, when I found the Jingyu world, it was all but ruins, and there were no survivors. Hearing this, Himing's mood visibly sank. Wen Quan looked at Himing in surprise. His master had always avoided discussing his origins, so this was the reason. At that time, our world was attacked by an unidentified immortal class creature. The creature had the body of a toad, but with humanoid hands and feet, which was utterly disgusting to behold. The old bone and I took our immortal artifacts to resist in a hurry. Originally, we had a chance of winning. However, for some reason, the creature, despite lacking intelligence, was very familiar with our styles of battle and kept suppressing us. When we were at a disadvantage, the creature's round belly revealed two faces. Those were the faces of our predecessors who had ascended. Seeing this, Old Bone's Tao heart collapsed, and he lost his desire to fight. My Tao heart was also greatly disturbed, and I wasn't much better than him. The gap between mortals and immortals is as vast as a chasm. Our bodies were decaying and our immortal artifacts were destroyed. Old Bone and I could no longer reverse the situation. Before dying, faced with this desperate situation, I stimulated my potential and created a forbidden spell. I sacrificed my chance of reincarnation and allowed the souls of cultivators who died in the battle to remain in the world, hoping to use a massive amount of soul power to defeat the immortal class creature. But I failed. Indeed, I caused the cultivators to stay in the world, but as souls, they could not intervene in reality. We could only watch. We watched helplessly as the immortal class creature and the monsters it spawned destroyed our world without being able to do anything. Later, there was a collision between the worlds, causing spatial turbulence. I was unconscious due to exhausting too much energy. When I woke up again, I found that my soul was attached to a pendant, and the holder of the pendant was Wen Quan. Wen Quan interjected, "That pendant is an amulet that my grandmother left for me. She said that she encountered several dangers, and it was thanks to the amulet that she turned danger into safety." I found that although I couldn't directly influence reality, I could exert my power through Wen Quan as a medium. The stronger Wen Quan is, the more power I can exert. However, if the opponent is also a soul, I can unrestrictedly use the power of the Transcendence Tribulation stage, as demonstrated when I struck down True Man Wangku. I speculate that I am not the only one who chose to possess a host. Maybe all of the cultivators who came to this world made the same choice. I passed on the cultivation techniques to this kid in the hope that I could exert more power. Moreover, this kid's talents are really not bad. He has a dual attribute spiritual root and managed to reach the 4th stage of Qi cultivation in just 2 short months. When Qinger sized her brother up and down, "I remember you have been secretive for these 2 months, became physically better, kept a regular schedule, and even your memory improved. You managed not to fail your college final exams. This kid didn't fail because I cheated spiritually and helped him see the answers. Otherwise, he would have failed the exam. You dare to cheat? You've got some guts." Wen Qinger teased her brother. Wen Quan defended himself. "Master, you have to speak the entire truth. You clearly said that the exam would delay my cultivation and that you would take care of it. Don't pay attention to these little details. Can I cultivate too?" Wen Qinger pointed at herself, her heart itching with curiosity, also wanting to cultivate. Without even thinking, Himing flatly refused. "You only have the 5 elements spiritual root. Your aptitude is too poor. Cultivating would simply be a waste of spiritual energy. In the Jingyu world, anyone with 5 elements spiritual root is immortal, without the qualifications to cultivate." However, Zhongli laughed and said, "Spiritual energy is infinite. How can there be such a thing as waste? If you want to cultivate, I can guide you on your journey." Chapter 548. Modifying cultivation technique isn't just about having hands. Himing Taoist felt that Zhongli was indulging in fantasy. "Think carefully about it, my friend. The upper limit of the 5 elements spiritual root is fixed. One can only hover around the qi cultivation stage for their entire life, and it is impossible to reach the foundation establishment. Himing Taoist was giving a friendly reminder. If Zhongli decided to mentor Wen Qing'er yet she couldn't even break through the qi cultivation stage, it would damage Zhongli's reputation as a powerful cultivator who had opened up a new realm. It doesn't matter, I've seen many who have reached the body integration realm by relying on the 5 elements spiritual route. This is the spiritual energy diagram. First use this to guide the energy into your body. After you reach the 3rd level of qi cultivation, we can start the new phase. With Zhongli's hands-on guidance, Wen Qing'er quickly absorbed the energy, attaining the 1st level of qi cultivation. What cultivation technique does Wen Quan practice? Zhongli asked casually. It's this, Taishu scripture, left by a predecessor who ascended. It can be cultivated till the Earth Immortal period, and it is very suitable for Wen Quan's talents. Himing passed the Taishu scripture to Zhongli without fear of any hidden motives on his part. He could see that Zhongli was a righteous cultivator, and more so than he himself was. Towards such a person, Himing could only feel admiration. It's well written, but it seems this cultivation technique doesn't quite match up with the traits of Wen Quan. Zhongli realized that there were many parts of the Taishu scripture that could be modified. With slight tweaks, it would be much more suitable for Wen Quan. My friend, you are joking. This is the best cultivation technique in our sect, there can't be a better cultivation technique suitable for him. Why should one conform to the cultivation technique? Why not modify the cultivation technique to suit the person? Himing Taoist opened his mouth but found himself at a loss for words. He had been cultivating for so long, always picking out people based on the cultivation technique. This was the first time he'd heard of a cultivation technique altered to suit a person. You won't mind if I make minor modifications, will you? Please do. With the permission granted, Zhongli quickly made changes on the original cultivation technique. Have a look, friend. Did I miss anything? Himing Taoist read through the technique, his soul trembling. The minor alterations have elevated the cultivation technique to another level. Not to mention himself, even his ascended Grand Master couldn't have accomplished this. Zhongli seemed to know about this technique more than its creators. The Taishu scripture is very good with immense potential. As I am still getting to know Wen Quan better, it would not be appropriate to make huge modifications. I'll make a few more changes to the Taishu scripture after I get to know him better. In the meantime, please make do with this. Zhongli humbly added. Himing felt that Zhongli, who is in the Mahayana realm, seemed to compare not with an earth immortal but a boundless immortal. It was too terrifying. Knock knock knock. The knocking sound roused Wen Quan. He quickly turned his head to gaze vigilantly at the door. Hello, your takeaway has arrived. It's mine. Zhongli responded and went to open the door. There are quite a few foods in this world that I have never seen before. They are very interesting, Zhongli commented. Do you want some? Thank you for your kindness, but my master says I am at a critical period of cultivation. I need to be strictly controlled my diet. I need to maintain my figure, I dare not take supper. Wen Quan and his sister declined Zhongli's offer. Zhongli could only enjoy the delicious food alone. I have to film tomorrow, so I'm going to bed now. Wen Qing'er yawned. She was really tired today. Even becoming a 1st-level qi cultivator couldn't keep the fatigue at bay. Go to sleep. Until you learn how to meditate, sleep is the fastest way to restore your vitality. I'm going to bed too. Under Himing Taoist's gaze, Wen Quan reluctantly went off to bed. Ever since he acknowledged Himing as his master, Wen Quan had to go to sleep at 10 o'clock and was not allowed to use his cell phone on the bed. Zhongli stood on the balcony, took a sip of hawthorn juice, expressed satisfaction, and turned to ask, "What's up, do you want to ask something?" Himing hesitated, not knowing how to phrase his question. Zhongli laughed. "Didn't you send the siblings away because you wanted to ask me something they shouldn't hear?" With that affirmation, Himing made up his mind to ask, "During your travels through the 10,000 realms, have you ever encountered the immortal creatures that attacked our world?" Zhongli's smile faded. "Without even visiting the 10,000 realms, our JoJo world has encountered these monsters numerous times, causing immense sacrifices. Do you know where these monsters come from? You probably already know the answer to this question, but are just reluctant to believe it, otherwise, you wouldn't be so hesitant to ask." Himing remained silent. Indeed, upon seeing the faces of the two immortals and hearing Zhongli mention the severed Ascension ladder, the truth was easily deduced. He asked with slight bitterness, "Is it a civil war in the immortal realm?" To be precise, it's a civil war in all the immortal realms. The heavenly Tao has developed a spiritual intelligence and intends to annihilate the 10,000 realms, including Jingyu world and Jojo world. Himing froze. Even though he had imagined the worst-case scenario, he didn't expect it to involve the heavenly Tao, a high-level existence. This was a little too hopeless. Knowing the truth yet still maintaining such optimism, I admire you. Himing noticed that Zhongli didn't seem worried at all. He continued to enjoy hearty meals and didn't show any signs of slowing down. This was the behavior of someone not taking the matter seriously. Would you believe me if I said that I, in my Mahayana realm, am more powerful than the heavenly Tao? Himing firmly shook his head. Zhongli chuckled but didn't explain further. You'll believe it eventually. This was something that couldn't be explained anyway. Was he supposed to randomly pick two luckier worlds and pit them against each other to prove his power? Sis, I want to go with you to the filming site. Wen Quan, recalling the incident from the day before, was still fearful. Wen Qinger couldn't refuse her brother and agreed to take him along. I'll go too. Zhongli thought it would be interesting and followed along. Wen Qinger had no option but to bring the two of them to the film set. Wen Qinger, why are you still here? Hurry up and change your costume, the director urged. The one who had asked Wen Qinger to accompany the drink was the deputy director, but the one urging her now was the main director. Why is the director like this today? He looks a bit upset. Wen Qinger whispered to the makeup artist. An actor had an accident this morning. Even though they had a minor role, they were vital to the plot. With the actor missing, we can't film the scene for today. Waiting means wasting the rental fee for the venue. Luckily, this actor hasn't appeared on screen yet. The director is looking for a substitute, but still can't find a suitable one. The makeup artist complained. She didn't know if today's shoot was possible. She was asked to do makeup for the actors, but if the shoot didn't proceed, they would have to remove the makeup. Wen Qinger nodded silently. The director looked around the room, his eyes suddenly lit up, feeling like he had found an ideal replacement actor. What's your name? Zhongli. Are you willing to act as the emperor? I can consider it. Chapter 549. Rein it in a little, even the emperor isn't as domineering as you. The director felt that Zhongli was perfect for the role of an emperor the first time he laid eyes on him. Calm, strong, harboring the aspiration to protect the world, Zhongli was just standing there and the director identified his distinctive quality. Do you have any acting experience? Zhongli thought briefly of his experience as a human emperor candidate, including but not limited to his interactions with the previous human emperor and candidates, and uncertainly said, it can be considered as an experience. The director clapped his hands in joy, calling over the costume designer. That's great, come now, help him into his costume. Once Zhongli donned the emperor's robe, without making any particular motion, he simply stood there, emanating the grandeur of a supreme ruler. Even the costume designer dared not approach him, but retreated of their own accord. You have quite good appeal, but your expression doesn't quite fit that of an emperor. You need to be more stern, don't always carry that smile, it's too ordinary. As a strong person, you need to have the demeanor of a strong person. Zhongli replied honestly, I have no experience in this respect, please guide me. Feeling more convinced of Zhongli's acting potential, the director carried on with his instruction. It's good for a young person to be humble and willing to learn. Although you haven't been a strong one before, you could put yourself in the shoes of the strongest, or those standing at the pinnacle of power, to consider problems. As a strong person, you should possess the temperament of a strong person, a serious demeanor and less laughter is a fundamental requirement. Think about it, if you're too affable, won't people think that you're too kind and bully you, disobeying your orders? Makes sense, go on. Furthermore, as a strong person, your features should carry an air of kill. The journey of becoming an emperor would surely be filled with blood and death, countless lives lost. Ceasing to be benevolent in order to control soldiers, you've climbed to the throne over tens, hundreds or even thousands of lives. This is the origin of your murderous aura. Do you see where I am headed? Zhongli put away his smile, closing his eyes. His sleeve swaying, his back turned, his demeanor resembled that of a clay sculpture. When he opened his eyes again, a cold and domineering aura welled up around him. Compared to his original demeanor, even the emperor's robe seemed too inferior to match his status. Zhongli slowly opened his mouth, his tone carrying a sweeping indifference to life. You get the rare chance to see my face, why not kneel? Thump. The director and others had their legs go soft and kneeled uncontrollably, shouting, long live. However, Zhongli flew into a rage. Absurd. I am the eternal emperor, a nonpareil over the ages, how could I live for just a mere 10,000 years? You are treacherous, cursing me with a short life, such a crime must be punished. Guards, take them, behead them at the Meridian Gate. Your Majesty, spare us, spare us. The director and others felt as if they were being dragged away and hurriedly pleaded with Zhongli to withdraw his command. In reality, it was Zhongli using mana to pull them backwards. Zhongli withdrew his mana, causing the director to fall onto the ground. This jolt helped the director realize that they were just acting and the figure before him was not a true emperor but just an ordinary person. The director, trying hard to keep his legs from shaking, managed a smile and commented, "You really do have a talent for acting. With a role model, it's easy to act." Zhongli tried imitating the demeanor of the first emperor, and the effect was quite satisfying. For ordinary people, the first emperor was an invincible powerful figure, impossible to look at directly or converse with. So, should I keep acting like this? No, just tone it down a bit. The emperor in my script is the emperor of one ancient country, not the emperor of the entire continent. You are radiating too much dominance. Never mind, just revert back to your original state. It would be hard for other actors to coordinate with you if you keep acting this way. Seeing the other actors feeling fear and hesitant to approach Zhongli, the director suggested. Oh, Zhongli felt that acting was quite difficult, having to switch back and forth between the first emperor and himself. Now that's much better. The director felt relieved. After Zhongli had toned down his dominance, the actors all returned to normal. When Wen Qing'er came out after getting changed, she saw Zhongli in his emperor's robe and wondered if she had time traveled. Master, does it feel like Senior Zhongli is having quite a good time? Himing spoke solemnly. One must not be fooled by outward appearances. By the looks of it, our friend Zhongli may seem like he's just playing, but this is indeed a manifestation of transcending ordinary life while being part of it. He's able to switch freely between the role of a detached superior and an ordinary person. This very mindset is worth our lifelong learning. Wen Quan nodded blankly, even though he still felt that Senior Zhongli was just enjoying himself. Come, let's start with the first scene. The first scene is about concubines vying for the emperor's affection and the emperor remains unshakable amidst their charms. All the actresses selected by the director are very attractive, each gesture and expression exuding charm and captivating the heart. To act as if these women held no interest for him was quite a task. Your Majesty, come taste this, it's lychee from the south. One concubine peeled a lychee revealing the tender flesh inside, intending to feed it to Zhongli. The concubine smiled sweetly, melting hearts. Any man seeing this scene would subconsciously open their mouth. To transport this fruit is costly and laborious, how could I let the state treasury be drained solely for my enjoyment? The concubine had no choice but to take the lychee away, disappointed. Another concubine displayed her talent by dancing seductively. You dance quite well, but it's a pity that you're off the beat. Go, practice more. Also, get dressed properly. A piece of clothing falling off while you're dancing obviously means you need more practice. Zhongli commented. Yet another concubine prepared a delicious meal, the aroma tantalizing. As she served the food, she pretended to scald herself accidentally, hoping that Zhongli would hold her hand and blow on it to soothe the pain. Zhongli immediately called for the imperial physician and asked her to rest well, without touching her at all. Wen Qing'er, also one of the concubines, has a beautiful singing voice. She sang for Zhongli, the melody captivating everyone present. You sing quite well. Zhongli applauded, motioning for the next concubine to come forward. No matter how the concubines tried to charm him, Zhongli remained unmoved. Watching this scene, the director figured that this emperor was being too stoic. Zhongli shook his head inwardly. If he could remain unperturbed while being a member of the Union sect, these small tricks wouldn't sway him. Let's start the second scene. The second scene is the story of breaking a chopstick. The prince attempts to break a chopstick, followed by the emperor's trial, ending with the emperor imparting a lesson about human interactions to the prince and princess. My son, come, break this chopstick. The crown prince broke a chopstick effortlessly. Come now, break these 10 chopsticks next. The crown prince strained hard but managed to break the 10 chopsticks. Next, break these 50 chopsticks. This time, the crown prince was unable to break them. He handed the bundle back to the emperor, obediently waiting for his father's teaching. Zhongli accepted the bundle of 50 chopsticks and easily snapped them. Look, breaking 50 chopsticks is not a difficult task. What lesson does this teach? All of you, speak your thoughts. The prince and princess exchanged glances. The director looked at the script, then at Zhongli. He couldn't help but feel that something was wrong between the script and Zhongli. What could be wrong? Chapter 550, Real Actions in Pretense. In the end, the director still went through the script with Zhang Li, informing him that the emperor wasn't that strong. The storyline was meant to convey to the princes that unity was strength. Speaking of which, you are pretty strong. You look thin and weak, but I didn't expect you to be able to break 50 chopsticks. I've trained for several years, I'm confident in my strength, Zhang Li said, patting his chest. Ultimately, the second act was approved according to the director's script. In the third act, the emperor attends court, instructing the protagonist to survey the drought in the south, and funds distribution for the court, the director said. Who's the protagonist? Zhang Li asked, turning to Wen Qing'er. It's Zhao Minghan, a professional singer. This is his first TV drama as he wants to change his image. But he's currently touring the nation, which conflicts with the filming schedule. He happened to be touring nearby and came for the shoot, she replied. Zhao Minghan's idea is to shoot his scenes once his national tour is finished. Can the director wait? He's the primary investor, she stated. Where is Zhao Minghan? The director was very satisfied with Zhang Li's acting skills. When it was time for the protagonist to appear, he remembered that Zhang Li wasn't the lead actor. An extravagant car sped in, screeched to a stop at the entrance, and an attractive male movie star hurried out. Fans recognized me on the street and swarmed around the car, Zhao Minghan casually explained, unapologetic for his tardiness. His bodyguards blocked the makeup artist who wanted to do his makeup. I'm sorry, I have my own professional makeup artist, Zhao Minghan said, gesturing to his personal makeup artist to do his makeup. Where is he? Behind my car, he'll be here in 2 minutes, he replied. The director couldn't do much about Zhao Minghan's attitude. What could he say about the person who financed the entire project? Luckily, Zhao Minghan wasn't just rich, he was also a talented actor. Kneeling in the palace and thanking the emperor for the task, he portrayed the trembling feeling upon seeing the emperor spectacularly. His transition from tension to relaxation when he left the palace was so realistic that it was simply astonishing. Zhao Minghan's acting has improved, the director exclaimed, finding his reactions incredibly real, almost like it was true. The assistant director, looking at the emperor grinning like he had the situation under control, and then at Zhao Minghan whose legs were still trembling, quietly reminded, what if this isn't just acting? The third act ended smoothly. In the fourth act, the emperor is assassinated and falls into a coma, causing chaos in the court. Zhao Minghan's journey to the south loses its support. To unify Central Plains and become the king of Central Plains, you are seen as the biggest threat by the surrounding countries. The assassin has been sent by the enemy country with the intent to assassinate you when presenting the map. The guards will not be able to save you in time. You will run around the pillar, but you will still be hit by the assassin. However, the assassin will not succeed completely, and you will only pass out for a while. This is a pack of fake blood. When the assassin hits you, the pack will burst open. You'll clutch your chest, stagger a few steps, and fall to the ground. I remember. The assassin, pretending to be an envoy, presented a map to Zhang Li. The ministers were pleased, signifying the power of their country. Your Majesty, this is our country's map. Here are the details of the city's defense, the disguised assassin said, pretending to explain. At the end of the map, a poisoned dagger revealed itself. The assassin suddenly grabbed the dagger, gripped Zhang Li's sleeve, and stabbed at him. Zhang Li was shocked and struggled to stand up. The dagger didn't pierce him but tore his sleeve. Zhang Li wanted to draw his sword, but it stuck in the scabbard and wouldn't come out. Die, inept ruler. The assassin, ready to die to achieve his mission, tried to strike Zhang Li again when the initial attack failed. The court was in chaos, and Zhang Li ran around a pillar with the assassin pursuing him relentlessly. Zhang Li ran so fast he ended up behind the assassin and patted the assassin's shoulder in a maternal gesture. The assassin immediately retaliated, but he found Zhang Li as solid as a wall, his dagger unable to penetrate. The dagger was genuine and coated in paralyzing poison. The assassin wanted to mix true aggression into the act and kill the emperor. There were many ways to kill a person, but his favorite was the kind where everyone thought it was an act, while he was actually killing. Zhang Li coughed up blood, whispering into the assassin's ear, relying on killing to strengthen yourself, are you a demonic cultivator? Zhang Li had agreed to act in the play for the most part because he found it entertaining, but also because he suspected that the actor playing the assassin actually intended to kill. While acting, he also had to prevent the assassin from killing, which he found exhausting. His mouth had been too busy to close. The assassin was scared, the dagger that he was so proud of could not penetrate Zhang Li's skin. The assassin hurriedly fled the scene, and Zhang Li collapsed on the ground according to the script. A group of imperial physicians came over to attend to his wounds. Meanwhile, Wen Quan was tracking the assassin under Himing's guidance. Your acting skills are excellent. Unfortunately, the script is already finalized and can't be altered to give you more scenes. If you appear too much, you'll overshadow the main actor, the director lauded. If it wasn't for this, I would have given you several more scenes. How do you feel? Do you still want to act? I don't have any emperors to cast lately, but I have few contacts who are in need of a good emperor. Would you like to give it a try? The director was eager to let Zhang Li showcase his talent in the acting industry, almost as if he had found a treasure. No thanks, acting is merely a hobby, I have a job to do. What do you do? I'm the human emperor. Huh. The assassin ran, panting heavily. He had infiltrated the crew intending to murder someone and then flee, not expecting to encounter such a tough situation. After his escape, the emperor's accomplice was hot on his heels. Luck wasn't on his side. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Irate, the assassin put up a fight. Breaking formation fist, Wen Quan punched the assassin's wrist, and the dagger flew away. Okay, I am afraid of you. The assassin, terrified, continued his escape. Just then, a charming figure appeared in front of the assassin and apprehended him. You've led me a merry chase, minion of the Ruin Alliance. Finally caught you. A phase nascent soul stage spiritual soul appeared behind the assassin, and a body integration realm spiritual soul appeared behind the charming figure. The phase of the body integration realm spiritual soul subdued the phase of the nascent soul stage spiritual soul, just like how the charming figure subdued the assassin. In terms of strength, the assassin was inferior to the charming figure, in terms of tactics, he was still inferior. Who are you? Wen Quan arrived at the scene. My name is Qin Yi, and I'm a member of the Mutual Aid Association. Judging by your condition, you should also have a soul from the Jingyu world within you. Most of the members of our association are like you. What is the phase of the soul within you? Transcendence Tribulation Stage. I have a Mahayana realm soul within me, Zhang Li said, arriving at the scene after finishing his scenes. You really think I'm stupid, don't you? Chapter 551. In this era, do you have to beg to teach someone to cultivate immortality? There are only two people in the Transcendence Tribulation Stage, the head of the righteous way is Taoist Himing, and the head of the demonic way is the demonic lord of dried bones who created the Destruction Alliance. Could it be that you're possessed by Taoist Himing? Mahayana realm is unheard of, is it a realm that you've created yourself? Qin Yi sneered, piercing through their fabrications. There are more than two people in the Transcendence Tribulation Stage, Bai Hongtu, Yu Yin, Li Er, there are more than two that I can name. Moreover, there's truly a soul of the Mahayana realm within me, don't believe me? Look. Zhang Li seriously corrected the errors of Qin Yi, his yang spirit came out of his body, and displayed it for Qin Yi to see. Qin Yi, viewing the yang spirit that is identical to Zhang Li, found it harder to believe what Zhang Li had been saying. Whose spirit that resides within would look exactly like themselves? Seeing that she did not believe Zhang Li's words, Taoist Himing appeared in person, laughing, wind dispersion, it's been some time. The soul of the body integration realm behind Qin Yi, upon seeing the figure of Taoist Himing, immediately stiffened, with lips trembling. Wind dispersion pays respect to Elder Himing. Upon seeing Taoist Himing, wind dispersion paid his respect excitedly. In Jingyu world, Taoist Himing was an insurmountable mountain, with absolute authority. Although against the monster of the earth immortal, everyone knew it was nearly impossible to kill this immortal with a mortal's body. It was within expectation for Taoist Himing to fail, which did not affect his status among cultivators. Qin Yi's sneer froze, she didn't know how she ought to react and gave a respectful greeting only when wind dispersion communicated it to her via voice transmission. Qin Yi was blind to Mount Tai, I ask for Elder Himing's punishment. I won't make things difficult for a junior like you. Taoist Himing waved his hand, with no intention of punishing. Knowing that the person in front of her was Taoist Himing, both Qin Yi and Wind Dispersion were extremely excited. The Aid Alliance and the Destruction Alliance had been confronting one another for numerous years. Given that a Transcendence Tribulation stage soul is holding the fort in the Destruction Alliance, the Aid Alliance was at loss on how to deal with the Destruction Alliance. If they had Taoist Himing on their side, the morale of the Aid Alliance would greatly increase. The Aid Alliance headquarters is here, I will go and bring the president to welcome you. You may directly lead me to the headquarters of your Aid Alliance. Yes, the assassin and the soul inside him were thinking about committing suicide. What kind of luck did they have? They actually encountered powerful figures like Wind Dispersion and Taoist Himing. How could they escape now? Qin Yi called a cleaning vehicle, threw the assassin onto it, had him taken away, then called the special car of the 8 Alliance, and invited Wen Quan and Zhang Li to get in. This one is, wind dispersion didn't know the origin of Zhang Li. Generally speaking, those who can perform soul travel should be cultivators from the Jingyu world, but how come he didn't recognize him? Could it be a hidden cultivator? This is Taoist Zhang Li. He comes from another world and his powers are unfathomable. Taoist Himing introduced. Wind dispersion's pupils contracted, he was frightened by Taoist Himing's short introduction. This type of introduction contains so much information, it was terrifying when carefully thought through. Wind dispersion's gaze toward Zhang Li had also changed. I have been in a deep sleep for a long time, and have not formally met any other cultivators. Could you explain to me what the 8 Alliance and the Destruction Alliance are all about? Yes. Wind dispersion fell into reminiscence. Everyone got swept up into a spatial current and was dispersed. When I first came to this world, I discovered that I couldn't move even a single pebble or be discovered by people. After many experiments, I finally found a way to use power, which is to choose a person to possess. Different from seizing a body is to control another person's body while still alive. But for possession, we have to attach ourselves to another person's body, which requires the person's consent. The difficulty is not the same at all, and as for the reasoning behind it, we still do not understand. Zhang Li interrupted. This is a constraint of the reincarnation rule, a barrier between life and death. Deceased people cannot directly interfere in the world of the living. After you died, Taoist Himing used a forbidden technique to temporarily keep you from going to the underworld, but that doesn't change your deceased state. Therefore, there are many restrictions if you want to use the power of the soul. Wind dispersion had never heard of the reincarnation rule, but the other party was of mysterious origin and spoke in a convincing manner, so he believed most of it. I then approached Xiaoqin, telling her that I wanted to reside within her. In exchange, I can teach her how to cultivate the Tao. But Xiaoqin did not agree. Later, I said that I wanted to teach her how to cultivate the Tao, and in order to instruct her more conveniently, I needed to reside within her. Xiaoqin agreed. Taoist Himing was unsure of how to comment for a moment. This year, do people beg to instruct others on how to cultivate the Tao? I still remember Xiaoqin saying that cultivating the Tao could help her unlock the seal in her left eye. Master, you've gone off track, you can continue on how the 8 Alliance was founded. Qinyi quickly diverted Wind Dispersion's attention. When Wind Dispersion found her, she was just 14, the age when she loved to daydream and thought that she was the chosen one. She thought Wind Dispersion saw the black force that could disrupt the world's order within the left eye disaster, hence he wanted to teach her how to cultivate the Tao, and the initiative was on her side. The most direct evidence was that her eyesight in her left eye was better than that in her right eye. Several years later, she found out that it was because she had been wearing a seal eye patch on her left eye. Now, she wished she could lock this black history in her mind and never recall it. It was too embarrassing. The reason I chose Xiaoqin was because of her talent, which is very suitable to cultivate my cultivation technique. Xiaoqin did not let me down, she was able to reach the foundation establishment stage in just a few short years. Early stage of foundation establishment, with a solid foundation, this is indeed not bad, it's just that she's been a bit rushed lately trying to reach the middle stage of foundation establishment, her practice is somewhat impetuous, she still needs to solidify her foundation. Zhang Li pointed out the problem at a glance and made a comment casually. Qinyi cast a sidelong glance, memorizing Zhang Li's words. Even Wind Dispersion didn't notice that she was too hasty when she was advancing to the middle stage of foundation establishment. This elder is indeed a great expert. Wind Dispersion continued. During the process of Xiaoqin's cultivation, the two of us were also searching for fellow practitioners who had also come to this world. Although I'm not as good as Elder Himing, I still am a cultivator of the body integration realm and maintain a certain appeal. Gradually many like-minded people chose to follow us, and we established a small group. The relationship between me and Xiaoqin is also chosen by most of the practitioners. Later, we encountered other small groups. The small groups merged and formed the initial 8 Alliance. The 9 of us at the body integration realm are the core force of the 8 Alliance. Later, a fellow Anu in our group suggested that since the 8 Alliance is a secret organization, we should use a code name to call each other. He suggested that we could use the number of tails as the code name, such as 1 tail, 2 tails, 3 tails, 4 tails, 9 tails. If Elder Himing were there at the time, he would be 10 tails. He also suggested that the people we possess would become the cornerstone of humanity after cultivation, so we might as well call them, Pillar of Strength. Did you guys agree? We unanimously rejected it and beat him up together. Later, we felt we might have been too harsh on him, and to compensate for it, we decided to get him and the human he possesses to become the president. The president you're talking about wouldn't happen to be fellow Taoist Howling Moon, would it? It's that dog. We're at the headquarters now. Chapter 552. I'm cultivating the heavenly dog eating the moon. The Interworld Help Association headquarters, comprised of several large buildings, was a famous local landmark. However, the public had no idea what its purpose was. A group of cultivation practitioners in the city naturally had all sorts of ways to acquire wealth. These buildings were merely the tip of the iceberg of their fortune. Wen Quan was a prime example. After a few months of cultivation, he could earn 120 million yuan by betting on raw jade stones. Welcome honored elders Himing and Zhang Li, and honored cultivator Wen Quan. The president stood at the door, saw Zhang Li and the others, put down the mooncakes in his hands, and greeted them enthusiastically. Qin Yi had already informed the president of their identities through a spiritual treasure capable of long-range transmission, a cell phone. Zhang Li looked at the bag of mooncakes in the president's hand with some confusion. Thank you, but we don't eat mooncakes. The president explained awkwardly, these mooncakes are for my cultivation. Zhang Li was even more perplexed. You should know that my master is the real person of the Howling Moon, a great demon of the body integration realm. Just found out. The most famous divine skill of the Tengu clan is Tengu eating the moon, you should know this. Yes. So, what I'm practicing here is a rudimentary form of Tengu eating the moon, Tengu eating mooncakes. The master said, eating mooncakes is practicing. Zhang Li, he felt that he was ignorant. Where is the real Howling Moon? The president was embarrassed and didn't know how to explain. Venerable Himing, who knew the dog's character, expressed understanding. The listener crowed to Zhang Li and Wen Quan, due to the cultivation technique, race, and personality, the real Howling Moon is only active at night, rejuvenating his essence during the day. Zhang Li wondered why he never saw a Tengu in the JoJo world active only at night. Is it because the Tengu clan in JoJo haven't cultivated to the body integration realm? Did venerable listener tell you about the Interworld Help Association and the Destruction Alliance? Zhang Li nodded. He just mentioned the establishment of the Help Association, and your master got beaten up. Then I'll continue. After thinking for a while, the president skipped the part of his master was beaten up. The Jingyu world was ruined suddenly due to the monsters of the earth immortal. The monsters' origin was unknown. The seniors of Jingyu world thought, if the monsters invaded, they would help us resist. This is also the purpose of the Interworld Help Association. Zhang Li then realized that the Interworld Help Association didn't mean the surviving cultivators in Jingyu world helping each other, but mutual help between Jingyu world and the heartfelt world. We are considering promoting cultivation to the point where everyone practices. As a preliminary preparation, we have released news and written many novels about the resurgence of spiritual energy, making people mentally prepared. The association president led them to another building that was specifically for research. It had 58 floors above ground and 95 floors underground. At the same time, we are testing how to merge cultivation with technology. Here are some of our technological achievements. What's this? As soon as Wen Quan entered the door, he saw something the size of a playing card made of steel with unfamiliar patterns on it. It seemed to be a talisman. This is an explosive talisman. In Jingyu world, cultivators throw talismans effort and techniques of spiritual energy usage. It's too difficult for those who never practiced cultivation who can even throw paper. Our researchers slightly improved it, changed the talisman's material from paper to steel, making it easier to throw. Is this considered a combination of cultivation and technology? Wen Quan was astounded. No, this is a project that researchers use to cheat on funding. I put it in the most conspicuous place to warn future researchers not to play tricks. Their subsequent projects were rejected by me. What's the subsequent project? Zhang Li was curious. Making the steel plates into boomerang-like shapes, so the talismans can be easily recycled. Here, Zhang Li saw the other products. Except for the unreliable steel talisman, the combination of cultivation and technology in the other products was quite imaginative. Although it couldn't compare to the achievements in JoJo, it was fully imaginative. After all, these cultivators had limited cultivation time and cultivation realm. The cultivators of Jingyu world couldn't directly contribute. They couldn't do what JoJo did, where the cultivators at the body integration realm directly researched the mass production of talismans. The president led everyone to the reception hall, invited them to sit, poured tea and water for them, and couldn't see any superiority in him. However, not all the predecessors from Jingyu world want to help our world. A group of cultivators who are cultivating the demonic path don't like our world. Not only did they dislike it, but they also established the Destruction Alliance, intending to destroy our world. At first, we did not understand the reasons. Later, after we captured a few people, we learned about their intentions. They were jealous of our world. Our world hasn't experienced cultivation and was weak. Our so-called technology was just petty skills and didn't have any significant power. But why was our world safe and sound, yet nobody in Jingyu world survived? At first, we thought whether there was any misunderstanding between us and the Destruction Alliance. Being cultivators from Jingyu world, we should unite when we come here. After learning the reason behind the Destruction Alliance, we realized that there was no possibility of negotiation or cooperation between the Interworld Help Association and the Destruction Alliance. The president regretfully said, "The Interworld Help Association and the Destruction Alliance have fought several times in public and in secret. We won more than we lost, but no matter how we took the upper hand, the Destruction Alliance had the evil Bone Demon Lord, which means we have no way to deal with the Destruction Alliance. After several years of development, we have taken important positions in all industries and begun to cooperate with the country to deal with the Destruction Alliance. That goddamn evil Bone is still as jealous as ever. Surely a dog can't change its character. Does he still want to repeat the disaster here?" Venerable Hemming cursed bitterly, wishing he could have a fight with the evil Bone Demon Lord directly. "I thought he had repented when he fought against the monsters of the Earth Immortal with me. Now it seems that he only allied with me under the pressure of circumstances. Where is evil Bone now?" The president was overjoyed, which meant that Venerable Hemming was on their side of the Interworld Help Association. "The evil Bone Demon Lord never takes direct action. We don't even know where he is. We have captured the body integration cultivators of the Destruction Alliance, but they don't know who he has possessed." The president regretted. However, the disappointment quickly vanished. With the addition of Venerable Hemming, the depth of their Interworld Help Association greatly increased. Thinking about this, the president happily ate a moon cake. He felt a step closer to cultivating the Tengu eating the moon. He had to keep it up. Would Venerable Hemming like to join the Interworld Help Association? "I am willing to resign and let cultivator Wen Quan become the president." Wen Quan looked at Venerable Hemming, waiting for his master's decision. Venerable Hemming looked at Zhang Li, waiting for Zhang Li's decision. Zhang Li looked at Wen Quan, waiting for Wen Quan's decision. Seeing that the three of them weren't moving, the president thought they were hexed. In the end, Venerable Hemming broke the stalemate and said, "I can oversee the Interworld Help Association, but if you want to defeat Evil Bone, the focus should not be on me, but on Zhang Li. May I ask the origin of this senior Zhang Li?" the president asked tentatively. Venerable Hemming solemnly said, "Cultivator Zhang Li comes from the most powerful JoJo world amongst the 10,000 realms. He is the strongest in JoJo world. Although he has not attained immortality yet, he can slay immortals and could be said to have carved out a new path on the road to attaining immortality." Chapter 553. The day's plan lies in the morning. What? The president abruptly stood up, his pupils constricting sharply. He thought he had misheard. He knew that Zhang Li was mysterious and immensely powerful, and he had attempted to imagine how mighty Zhang Li could be, such as arm wrestling with an Earth Immortal, battling with an Earth Immortal hundreds of times. But that was the limit for immortal. He could never have imagined that Zhang Li could become so powerful as to slay immortals. Xiaoyu Zhenren had told him that immortal slaying an immortal was a defiance against heaven, a feat unheard of in Jingyu world. But what exactly did this new path stand for and what did it signify? Having been mentored by Xiaoyu Zhenren, the president thought he knew enough to be considered well educated. But facing Zhang Li now, he still felt his knowledge was inadequate. Zhang Li signaled for Taoist Hemming to be cautious. "I just can suppress 10 golden immortals single-handedly. I haven't yet fought with Hunyuan Wuji immortal, let alone being capable of slaughtering an immortal." Upon hearing this, Taoist Hemming was also considerably shaken. He thought Zhang Li making a comparison with Hunyuan Wuji immortal was partly a joke, but hearing that he could suppress 10 golden immortals with a single hand seemed to suggest it was not just merely a comparison anymore. Exactly what cultivational level had this Taoist friend Zhang Li reached? And what exactly was the Mahayana realm? Taoist Hemming felt that Zhang Li standing in front of him held more secrets than the unknown and hidden realm of the immortals. Taoist Hemming could hardly believe that he had the qualifications to refer to himself as a Taoist friend with someone so mighty. In the world of cultivation, one's status was determined by their level of cultivation. An Earth immortal visiting their Jingyu world would definitely not call him Taoist friend. Powerful yet humble, Taoist Hemming had never seen such a powerful being before, All he had seen were aloof figures who looked down upon the weaker beings, treating them as if they were ants. You guys don't even have a smidgen of information about the desiccated bone. Taoist Hemming thought that the Mutual Aid Association and the Ruin Alliance, having been in opposition for numerous years, should have some information. In fact, apart from the Takeout Mutual Aid Association and the Ruin Alliance, there are certain cultivators who have chosen to remain neutral, claiming to keep themselves out of danger. I am aware of a body integration realm cultivator who has chosen to remain neutral, but due to the heavily guarded location where he is hiding and considering his status, when we previously attempted to inquire about the Ruin Alliance, he had refused. Where is he? Taoist Hemming asked. The ghost house of Tianshan Amusement Park. A sudden idea struck Taoist Hemming, and he quickly came to a realization. Is it Ghost of Sorrow? The president nodded. It is him. The cultivation technique of true man Ghost of Sorrow is closely related to negative emotions such as worry, fear, terror, hopelessness. The more negative emotions he absorbs, the more powerful he becomes. Both the true man Ghost of Sorrow and the person that he is possessing become stronger. Zhang Li made a strange face. The cultivation technique sounded a lot like the legends concerning the demonic origins contrived by Fairy Wang. Did Fairy Wang derive his inspiration from such a cultivation technique? Then, should we head to the amusement park for a no? I mean, shall we look for true man Ghost of Sorrow? Zhang Li suggested enthusiastically. Let's go tomorrow. It's too late today, and the amusement park is also closed. Furthermore, we forgot something. Wen Quan said. What is it? We came here in a rush and didn't inform my sister. She is still at the shooting location. Wen Quan took out his phone. The caller ID displayed, unlucky older sister. Zhang Li finally understood. In his excitement to play, he had forgotten that they had initially gone to the shooting location to watch Chinger's acting. When Zhang Li and the others found Chinger, she was looking at them reproachfully. Did you guys forget about me? Wen Quan firmly shook his head. No way, we were concerned about potential acquaintances distracting you from your performance, so we temporarily left the place. Chinger nodded, expressing her satisfaction with the explanation. She glanced at Zhang Li and laughed. I really should thank you. The director said that you were here with me. Finding such a great emperor in you is also my credit, so the director is willing to arrange more scenes for me. Do you have to shoot tomorrow? No, I do not have any scenes for the next few days. That's perfect, we are going to an amusement park tomorrow. Will you go? Yes. Wake up. Zhang Li called to wake Chinger. Still half awake, Chinger felt irritated by the alarm. She fumbled for her phone only to find that it wasn't her phone ringing. She rubbed her eyes and looked at Zhang Li, then looked again at the dim morning sky. She yawned. Going to the amusement park this early? No, we are going for morning exercises. Chinger put on her tracksuit and obediently followed Zhang Li for their early morning workout. We're practicing this early because a day's plan lies in the dawn, right? I understand that. No, we don't have such wisdom in our 9 provinces. There once was a cultivator in the body integration realm who cared for his juniors and thought that they would be most efficient practicing early in the morning, so he held the sun in the sky, making sure that only half of it was visible. He later discovered that this method did not increase the juniors' practice's efficiency. As a 5-element spiritual root, you want to cultivate, you will have to put in far more effort than the average person. I have you up so early to practice only because we will be spending the day at an amusement park and have no time for training, so we need to make some time for it. Quote. The more time Chinger spent with Zhang Li, the more she realized how terrifying cultivators were. This was the first time she had heard of artificially manipulated dawns. In fact, moving celestial bodies is quite common, Zhang Li continued. When the ascending immortal heavenly ladder was still present, there was an ascending immortal senior who insisted that 9 provinces continent orbited around the sun. To prove his point, he pushed around Nint's province's mainland around the sun every day. What happened later? Chinger was curious. In the end, he was defeated by the other ascending immortal seniors, and returned 9 provinces continent back to its original position obediently. Doesn't 9 provinces continent have courses like geography and astronomy? Zhang Li thought for a while. He had never paid attention to it before, but now that he thought about it, it seemed as if there really were none. Is there a tale of being hit by an apple and consequently realizing the law of universal gravitation? There is. Legend has it that Buddha meditated under the Bodhi tree and enlightened himself to the Buddhist law. The Buddha's radiance promoted the growth of the Bodhi tree. When a fruit fell from the Bodhi tree and hit Buddha, he casually comprehended the law of universal gravitation. However, it is unknown if the story is true. Many cultivators believe that this is just Buddhism giving some extra shine to its face. Chinger rubbed her temples, feeling as if she wasn't fully awake while Zhongli was telling his stories. Zhongli and Chinger arrived at the park for their early morning workout. Under Zhongli's guidance, Chinger began practicing earnestly. After spending some time practicing with Chinger, Zhongli saw a girl in white exercise clothes supporting an old man in a tang suit, who was about 70 years old, with a sharp-eyed bodyguard behind them. From the way the girl and the old man were walking and their breathing rates, they were martial artists. Chapter 554, Innate Martial Artist. Grandfather, look at them, they've taken our spot. The young girl, seeing Wen Chinger training, was somewhat displeased. This was her favorite place to practice martial arts. The girl indicated for her bodyguard to go forward and negotiate. Soon, the bodyguard came back with a dejected report, stating that the other party was unwilling to leave the spot. The girl became even more unhappy. The old man noticed the girl's intentions to act, and pulled her back with a frown. How have I taught you? What do you mean, our spot? This is a public place. Whoever gets here first owns the spot. The girl pouted and set up her stance near Wen Chinger, internally resolved to surpass the others in martial arts. Zhongli merely glanced at the girl's stance before dismissing it. The other party hadn't even touched the threshold of martial arts. The old man was stronger than the girl, just barely passing as a beginner in martial arts. In the universally martial ring universe, he would barely be considered ordinary. It seems that this world is still dominated by technology. Martial arts haven't yet risen, Zhongli guessed in secret. Developing martial arts is not something that can be achieved by a genius or a few individuals alone. Martial arts require a large number of martial artists to practice, summarize their experiences, refine, and sublimate these experiences to explore the initial path of martial arts. On this foundation, martial arts gradually develop. To consider Bu Jing as an example, who has cultivated his martial arts to invincibility upon sighting a god, standing shoulder to shoulder with the body integration realm. His achievement today is not solely his own credit, but his natural talent combined with the martial arts secrets of previous martial artists has given Bu Jing the capital to establish martial arts in his world, and led him to comprehend the two unprecedented realms of exterior scenery and invincibility upon sighting a god. The girl and the old man's strength were merely stronger than an average person. Whether they could dodge a bullet was questionable. If they were really hit by one, their life or death would be uncertain. Zhongli continued to focus on instructing Wen Chinger. First, hold a horse stance for the time of half an incense stick. This is basic training. Wen Chinger relaxed slightly. The burning time of one incense stick equaled half an hour, so half would only be 15 minutes, no time at all. She then saw Zhongli pull out a mosquito coil from his storage ring. Was there a big gap in our understanding of the time of one incense stick? Oh, sorry, I grabbed the wrong thing. Zhongli put the mosquito coil back in the storage ring and took out a stick of incense you would normally find in a temple. This mosquito coil was bought by Zhongli before he went to the Beast Mastery sect, after hearing that the price of mosquito coils had gone up, just out of curiosity. The biggest feature of this mosquito coil was its ability to repel golden core mosquitoes, and it worked incredibly well. Raise your arms, stick your chest out, keep your back straight, squat. Squat lower. Right, maintain that pose. Zhongli corrected Wen Chinger's horse stance. This is so uncomfortable. Wen Chinger gritted her teeth, her voice squeezing out through them, as she found that speaking even slightly louder made it hard to maintain the stance. Empty your mind, don't think about the pose, imagine you are a feather, without any weight. Zhongli artfully encouraged. However, Chinger's aptitude wasn't that great and she hadn't reached the self-forgetfulness realm that Zhongli hoped for. This was exactly what Zhongli had hoped for. He chose Chinger because he saw that she was unremarkable in every aspect except her beauty. Perhaps they could discover a method for ordinary people to break through to the fourth layer of chi cultivation from Chinger. The girl's practice grew more and more agitated, falling further from the old man's standards. Sure enough, I'm too into practicing in that spot. If I suddenly change locations, I feel uncomfortable. If I just keep it up, my schedule for the whole morning will be completely wasted. No, I can't let that happen. The girl ended her practice and walked decisively towards Wen Chinger, so fast that the old man couldn't stop her in time. Are you her master? Zhongli was taken aback but nodded in acknowledgement. Your disciple looks rigid. It seems like she has just started practicing martial arts. I won't bully her. As fellow martial artists, how about we spar? If you lose, then you'll give this spot to me. Wen Chinger had just finished her horse stance and was leaning against a tree, panting heavily. To her, it seemed the girl had some kind of illness. What if I win? A smile peeked out from Zhang Li's brows. It has been a long while since he last saw such a clueless girl. If you win, I'll give up this spot. Wen Qinger was looking at the girl as if she was an idiot. Realizing she had misspoke, the girl added, if you win, I can give you $1 million. Just as Qinger thought Zhang Li would refuse, he said, exercise is conducive to the circulation of spiritual energy, a spar won't hurt. The guardsman-dressed old man came late, and since the competition had already been decided, there was no point in stopping it. Upon seeing the old man, Qinger unconsciously took a step back. She felt the old man held high rank and power, and the way he held himself made him hard to approach, completely different from Zhang Li. The girl did have some skill. She started her stance and began to fiercely attack Zhang Li, who stood still and blocked everything with just one finger. The girl was sweating coldly. Only after exchanging blows did she realize how this man who seemed her own age had such profound inner energy. Could he be an internal energy martial artist? Martial arts are divided into external, internal, and transforming energies, and the girl was just barely trying to enter into the stage of external energy. Zhang Li lightly pushed with one palm, an invisible force sending the girl flying. The old man dressed in tang clothes cried out in disbelief, releasing internal energy, are you a transforming energy martial artist? The old man had not expected Zhang Li to be this strong. The guardsmen standing behind him stepped forward to protect the old man, worried they wouldn't able to keep him safe if the other party was hostile. I'm an innate martial artist, said Zhang Li. Innate martial artist? The old man had never heard of this term. May I ask, young man, what does innate martial artist mean? Born before the heavenly Tao, hence the innate. So that's how it is. The old man thought Zhang Li was speaking metaphorically about the heavenly Tao. Cough cough, the old man suddenly began to cough violently. Seeing this, the girl quickly ran to the old man's side, helping him take a pill to settle his breaths down. I note that your internal strength is still decent, but there are 3 hidden injuries in your body. I suspect they are lingering problems from battles in your early years. These 3 hidden injuries prevent your internal energy from flowing freely, thereby shortening your lifespan. Seeing that Zhang Li had accurately pointed out the problem, the girl hurriedly asked, can you heal my grandfather? The girl realized her tone was wrong and quickly apologized, I was wrong earlier. I shouldn't have challenged you. Could you please heal my grandfather? Why should I heal him? Give me a reason. Our Meng family has influence in the military, political, and commercial sectors. I can give you a lot of money. Zhang Li shook his head, in business and politics, there's mutual assistance for mutual benefits. Put your hand on your heart and tell me, has the Qi family ever received insider information from the government? If not, I will accept. We can let you join our system, picking whatever position you want. Zhang Li shook his head, power is not used like that as a local official. In that case, can you heal my grandfather out of the goodness of your heart as a doctor? Zhang Li shook his head, there are many injured people in the hospital right now, many of whom are injured more severely than your grandfather. Why don't I go heal them? Why should I go heal your grandfather? The girl was taken aback, and she realized that there really was no reason for Zhang Li to treat her grandfather. Chapter 555, A Promise. As the young girl had mentioned, their Meng family was a prestigious family with significant influence spanning military, political, and commercial landscapes. She had known smooth sailing in everything she ever resolved to do since her birth. People always sought her out for assistance, but she had never found the need to ask anything of anyone. She had seen all facets of life and believed what everyone ultimately sought was nothing more than money, power, fame, and strength. Yet the unfamiliar martial arts master standing before her seemed to have no interest in any of these things. He disdained the unscrupulous sources of the Meng family's wealth and declined their money. He believed the Meng family exploited their privilege for personal gains, so he refused their power. He didn't need the recognition the Meng family would give him after he cured their grandfather, so he also declined their fame. As for strength, he was a prominent martial arts expert. The Meng family simply did not qualify to discuss strength in his presence. His words shattered her 18 years of life experience into 1,000 fragments. Young man, if I promise to govern for the people and uphold integrity after my recovery, may I request your assistance? The old man tentatively asked. Having met numerous people throughout his life, he believed that no one was unfathomable to him. Today, he stood corrected. Zhang Li was the first person he found inscrutable. Seeing his indifference and emotionless eyes, he couldn't figure out what Zhang Li wanted. Zhang Li, however, casually asked, isn't that your duty? And in making such a promise, are you admitting that you failed to fulfill this before? The old man was speechless. He truly didn't know what Zhongli wanted. Zhongli seemed to see through the old man's thoughts and said, I'm not demanding anything. As I have said before, I see no difference between you and those patients in the hospital. Status and identity are not criteria I use to differentiate people. So, if you can fulfill your promise of governing for the people and upholding integrity, I can tell you the method to heal your injuries. The old man solemnly replied, I promise. Zhongli nodded, I hope you are a man who keeps his words. Within a month or 3, you will receive an order from the supreme ruler of your nation to make contact with a mysterious organization. This organization will cure your illness. What mysterious organization? The young girl was perplexed, but the old man held her hand to signal her to ask no more. Thank you, sir, for letting me know, the old man bowed, expressing his gratitude to Zhongli. With a sigh, Zhongli left with Wen Qing'er. Grandpa, this man is weird. How can you be the same as the patients in the hospital? The young girl could not comprehend Zhongli's actions. We are just the same. The old man saw things more thoroughly than the young girl. His eyes were distant, as if he were recalling something from the distant past. He is a peculiar individual, but one worthy of respect. He reminds me of myself when I started my political career. After decades of ups and downs in the political arena, I'd nearly forgotten my original intentions, to be a dutiful official, wholly devoted to serving the people. However, over time, when relatives sought assistance, I abused my power to help them rise above their positions. Gradually, this fostered the existence of power and privilege within the Meng family. Even now, I still cannot pinpoint where things went awry. The old man strolled back to his car, hands behind his back. I need some time alone to think about my original intentions. The young girl fell silent, lost in thought. Zhong, you seem unhappy. Zhongli's mood was quite apparent. Wen Qing'er noticed it immediately. I'm not unhappy, I simply feel helpless towards our reality. The Mutual Aid Association has begun to cooperate with the state at the national level. The association's headquarters is here, and the old man is the local governor. If I'm not mistaken, your world's supreme ruler will personally ask the old man to facilitate their interaction with the Mutual Aid Association. The Mutual Aid Association is bound to show respect to the old man and heal his injuries. There's no need for me to get involved. I used this situation to my advantage to get a promise from him. Do you know what this signifies? What? Wen Qing'er didn't expect Zhongli to ponder over this question. The level of thought he put into this was clearly beyond her reach. When you reach a certain position, benefits will automatically flow to you, whether you want them or not. This is how privilege is born and how the law of survival of the fittest manifests itself. Wen Qing'er faintly nodded. She thought she understood, but she didn't connect as deeply as Zhongli did. Zhongli suddenly brushed away his clouded mood, laughing as he said, overall, with the cooperation between the Mutual Aid Association and the government, improvements in medical care, social security, industry and other areas are expected. Your country will get better and better. The old man is simply the first one to reap the benefits. I was just expressing my feelings, you just need to listen, there's no need to delve into it. When Zhongli returned with fried dough sticks, tofu pudding, and tea eggs, Wen Quan just got up. Did you start practicing this early? Wen Quan was surprised, he didn't expect that Zhongli would be even more disciplined than him. Of course, I'm always practicing, said Zhongli. Wen Quan, I might not be talking about you. Dear Taoist friend, despite your fasting practice, you still consume these crude, less nutritious foods, just like mortals. In Himing's opinion, this can be perceived as a return to simplicity, for which Himing holds in high regard. Zhongli, for once, failed to find a suitable response. If I were to admit that I'm merely indulging a craving, wouldn't that undermine the adoration that Himing holds for me? After the 3 of them had their fill, they took a cab to the amusement park. Now, Wen Quan was now a billionaire, and there was no need for him to take the bus anymore. 3 people, 1 spirit. 4 full tickets, please. The ticket seller hesitated, failing to grasp what Wen Quan meant. Realizing the mistake, Wen Quan corrected himself, my apologies, I miscounted. 3 full tickets, please. Upon entering the amusement park, Zhongli headed straight for the roller coaster. Zhong, aren't we going to the haunted house? We've bought full tickets, so we might as well enjoy it to the fullest. Zhongli wholeheartedly embodied and imparted to Wen Quan the concept of taking full advantage of resources. Only when they boarded the roller coaster did Zhongli realize that it was so slow and not frightening at all. He could even fly faster than the roller coaster. In contrast, the yelling and screaming of the Wen siblings grew louder with each passing moment. By the time they got off the roller coaster, Wen Qinger could barely stand straight. Zhang Li tried bungee jumping, the pirate ship, and several other thrilling activities, but he didn't find them ludicrous at all. The merry-go-round seems much more fun. Zhang Li enjoyed his ice cream as he leisurely rode on the merry-go-round. Wen Quan and Wen Qinger played bumper cars, ruthlessly ramming into each other without holding back. Himing followed Zhang Li in his ghostly form and found it hard to comprehend the feeling of having fun in the amusement park. People come to amusement parks for the thrill and the leisure. I can't simulate the feeling of leisure for you, but I can certainly give you a taste of thrill, said Zhang Li. I'd like to try. No sooner had Himing responded, Zhang Li threw a punch towards him, quick as lightning, well beyond Himing's response capability. Himing felt as if the punch would disperse his soul. The fist approached closer and closer, but at the very last moment, it came to a halt, just half an inch away from Himing's nose. After a narrow escape from death, Himing collapsed on the ground, panting heavily. It seems quite fun, isn't it? Zhang Li jumped off the merry-go-round, bought a skewer of candied hawthorn, and led the Wen siblings towards the haunted house. Chapter 556, Unlucky Older Sister. I'm sorry, but we don't allow food to be brought into the haunted house, a staff member stopped Zhang Li. Once, there was a bold tourist who was eating while touring the haunted house. They choked, and it was a kindly ghost who carried the guest out. All the ghosts here are real, absolutely no fakes. Zhang Li had no choice but to finish his candy apple while glaring resentfully at the staff. There's an emergency station right next to the haunted house, less than 5 meters away. Near the exit of the haunted house, there are couples shaking in fear, supporting each other. Wen Quan browsed reviews on his phone. This is a must-visit spot for couples. It is said to enhance the relationship between the two. However, there are also cases of failure, where the man abandons the woman and flees directly, and naturally, the two break up. Overall, the chances of promoting interaction and breakups here are the same. I think couples have already found it thrilling before entering the haunted house. Wen Qinger, trembling a bit, was somewhat afraid of the haunted house. Zhang Li comforted her at the side, don't be scared. I have some relationship with the big wigs of the underworld. The ghosts should give face. Wen Qinger looked at Zhang Li as if she was looking at a ghost. Zhang Li finally finished his candy apple and went into the haunted house. The reviews online say the haunted house itself is a strange place. From the outside, it doesn't look big, but once you go inside, you find that it's much bigger than the exterior suggests, with attractions like a haunted school, midnight hospital, and eerie ranch. Wen Qinger, who was timid, continued to research about the haunted house after entering. Zhang Li and Taoist Himing didn't find anything strange. It's normal, as this haunted house is a secret place. We've already entered this secret place once we stepped inside. Also, I'd advise you not to use your phone for lighting. Why? Wen Qinger didn't dare to turn off her phone. The faint light source on her phone gave her a little courage. Because you might see what's on your head. Wen Qinger felt a little itchy on her face and scratched it, realizing that it was a strand of hair hanging down. But this hair was dry and yellow, not her own. When Wen Qinger subconsciously looked up, she saw a woman with a long neck and messy hair right above her, looking at the content on the phone screen with her. A strand of hair was hanging down, touching Wen Qinger's face. The faint glow of the phone screen was illuminating the ghost's face, making its horrifying features even more distinct. Ah! Frightened, Wen Qinger quickly embraced Zhang Li. Zhang Li helplessly said, "Look closely before you hug, are you hugging me?" Only then did Wen Qinger realize that what she was hugging was not Zhang Li, but a pole made of several arms linked together. Scared, Wen Qinger quickly fled. My sister has run towards the haunted school area. The president said realist Baisang is there. Wen Quan, worried about his sister, let Zhang Li lead the way. Huff, huff. Wen Qinger, short of breath from running, was terrified. She only realized she shouldn't be running alone when she arrived in a strange place. Senior Zhang, Senior Zhang, Wen Qinger called out softly, wanting to call Zhang Li over, but also afraid to attract the ghosts. After calling out a few times with no response, Wen Qinger could only muster her courage and move forward, muttering to herself, "Blessings from Senior Zhang, blessings from Senior Zhang. This seems to be a school." Wen Qinger didn't dare to use her phone anymore and could vaguely make out classrooms, desks and chairs, a blackboard, all indicating that it was a school, and she was in the hallway. The echoing effect in the corridor was excellent. With every stamp of her foot, Wen Qinger could hear her own footsteps bouncing back. After walking for a while, Wen Qinger felt weak in the knees from wandering in the dark. She wanted to lean against the wall and rest. Step, step, the footsteps were still echoing, and they were getting closer and closer. Wen Qing'er's hair stood on end. She didn't dare to look back. She noticed a light coming from a classroom up ahead and quickly ran towards it. As soon as she entered the classroom, Wen Qing'er felt like the whole world became a better place. The teacher was giving a lecture, and students were reciting texts. These sounds couldn't be heard from the outside, only those inside the classroom could hear them. "Student, I think you're in the wrong classroom." The language arts teacher stopped writing on the blackboard to alert Wen Qing'er. "I'll just stay here for a bit, my companion is coming to pick me up soon." "Well then, take a seat." The language arts teacher didn't pay it any mind. Conveniently, there was a vacant seat for Wen Qing'er. There seemed to be a hypnotic quality to the lecture given by the language arts teacher. It caused drowsiness, so much so that Wen Qing'er could hardly stay awake. She started to nod off, leaning forward unknowingly, and swiftly corrected her posture upon realizing the inappropriate position, but the drowsiness persisted. In her semi-conscious state, she thought she heard the voice of the security guard echoing in the hallway. "This is odd, I clearly switched off the main power, so why is there still light in this classroom?" The security guard, craning his neck to peek through the window, was scared out of his wits. In the classroom, 48 students and a teacher were rigid, their faces pale and hair covered in aquatic weeds. Their bodies were soaking wet, continuously dripping onto the floor. Only Wen Qing'er, in her semi-conscious state, seemed out of sync with the horrifying environment around her. Recalling news from a few months ago, the security guard shouted aloud, "What are you doing in there? Get out now." Several months ago, the students from this class went on a field trip. On the return trip, the bus driver inexplicably drove the bus straight into a reservoir. There was only one survivor while everyone else died. The seat you're in, that was the survivor's seat. Wen Qing'er was jolted awake by the dreadful revelation. The sight before her had drastically altered as well. There was no longer a brightly lit classroom with a considerate teacher and cheerful students, but a dim and gloomy classroom with a teacher bearing an eerie smile and students with death plastered on their faces. Wen Qing'er, intending to leave, found herself unable to move, as if nailed to her seat. The language arts teacher looked at Wen Qing'er. "What's the matter, student? Want to leave? I'm afraid you can't. We're just short of you now." Wen Qing'er's face turned pale with fear. She struggled desperately, her abilities in chi cultivation proving useful as she fought against her restraints. "Help me." Wen Qing'er sprinted towards the security guard. As she drew closer, she could clearly see his face. It too was wet and covered in aquatic weeds. "Don't be afraid, young miss. I'm the bus driver. I'll protect you." As the bus driver extended his hand towards her, Wen Qing'er quickly turned and ran into the restroom. She tried to calm herself down by running the tap, only to find strands of hair pouring out. She looked up at the mirror. The reflection staring back at her wasn't her own, but a woman's face covered in deep gashes. She ran into a toilet stall, huddled on the toilet seat, shivering uncontrollably. She could hear footsteps. The sound grew closer as they proceeded to knock on the doors. "Is anyone in there?" There was no response, so they knocked on the next door. Bang, bang, bang. "Is anyone in there?" Still no response, so they moved on to the next door. When they got to the door of Wen Qing'er's stall, she covered her mouth, terrified of making any sound. "Is anyone in there?" The person stood in front of her stall, clearly visible through the cracks in the door. Despite the persistent knocking, Wen Qing'er didn't respond. After what felt like ages, the pair of feet outside disappeared. The person had finally left, and Wen Qing'er heaved a sigh of relief. Wen Qing'er felt something wet on her neck and touched it. Assuming it was the toilet leaking, she looked up subconsciously. The woman, her face grotesque from the gashes, had crawled over from the next stall. Half her body was through, drool dripping from her mouth onto Wen Qing'er's neck. "This girl sure can run." Zhongli casually strolled into the school, making his way to the corridor. Wen Quan felt the description he'd stored for his sister on his phone was painfully accurate. Unlucky sister. "I hope she's okay," Wen Quan prayed with his hands together. Chapter 557. Ghost scares human, human scares ghost. "They've really put some thought into this haunted house. Everything from classrooms to equipment is fully furnished," Zhongli said with a laugh, hands in his pockets, strolling down the corridor. "Zhong Elder Zhong, why does this place feel a bit cold?" Wen Quan shivered, catching up with Zhongli's pace. "Quite normal. After all, besides us who are here, it's inhabited by ghosts. It's normal for it to be a bit more yin infused." "And, what are you afraid for?" Hymning, your transcendent tribulation stage soul companion is inside you. With him around, what ghost could possibly harm you? Wen Quan thought about it and felt that it made sense. So, he moved even closer to Zhongli. You still don't understand my point, do you? The echo in the hallway was excellent. As the pair walked along, the echo of clip-clop footsteps could be heard. Zhongli halted his steps, confused. Wen Quan also stopped. Clip, clop, the footsteps echoed from behind, causing Wen Quan's hair to stand on end. Suddenly, someone patted Zhongli on the shoulder. Zhong Elder Zhong, I've heard a rumor online that if you are patted on the shoulder in a haunted house, you must absolutely not turn back. Otherwise, the ghost would suck away your yang energy and cause you to fall unconscious. Oh, thanks for the reminder. Zhongli performed a shoulder throw and knocked the ghost down. As the pair strolled past the fallen ghost, Wen Quan glanced back at it with pity in his eyes. The stricken ghost looked stupefied, clueless about what had just happened. The light is still on in the classroom. Let's go and take a look. Zhongli entered the classroom. The distinct sound of reading could be heard. A teacher was writing on the board, the ambiance completely different from outside. All the other students have gone home, it's only you guys who are still here, clearing up. Zhongli turned off the light in passing. Time to go home. The reading abruptly stopped, even the language teacher was taken aback. The language teacher hesitated for a while and said, "Do you want to attend the class? We have 2 vacant spots." "No need, I'm already quite good at Chinese. If you don't believe me, you can start a couplet and I'll finish it." For some reason, the language teacher subconsciously refused Zhongli's proposal, and silently turned the lights back on. Let's continue the class. The language teacher lectured for a while, then turned towards Zhongli. Are you tired? If you are, take a nap. Zhongli really yawned. Do you realize how boring your lecture is? Half a class spent on one verse. Just then, the voice of a security guard came from outside. How strange, I clearly pulled the main power supply, why is there still classroom light on? Stretching his neck to look in, the security guard saw Zhongli and Wen Quan sitting in a classroom full of ghosts. He shouted, "What are you doing? Get out of here. This whole class drowned months ago during a field trip. They were on a bus that plunged into a reservoir and drowned." Is that so? Zhongli turned his head. His face was as pale as death, his lips were purple, his whole body was swelling, his hair was covered in aquatic plants, and his body was soaking wet. The security guard was scared witless. Oh, my God. The security guard screamed and went running, hid in the restroom and cowered in the corner of a stall, shaking like a leaf. Zhongli and Wen Quan left after bidding farewell to the classroom full of ghosts, turning off the light considerately as a parting gesture. The language teacher tried to turn the light back on, but found that no matter what he did, the light wouldn't come back on. The classroom's light was on after the main switch was turned off because they were using a backup generator, which was not affected. But now, for some unknown reason, the classroom light just wouldn't come back on. The language teacher looked terrified. Zhongli went into the bathroom and turned on the faucet to wash his hands. However, countless strands of hair flowed out and wrapped around his hand. Zhongli simply pulled the hair out until no more hair came out. When Zhongli looked up into the mirror, instead of seeing his own reflection, he saw a woman with a slashed face. The woman, brandishing a small knife, was reaching out from the mirror intending to slash Zhongli's face. Zhongli kindly pulled out a mirror from his storage ring and pasted it immaculately against the bathroom mirror. The female ghost in the mirror could only crawl from one mirror to the other, and back to the original mirror. When Zhongli left, a bald ghost crawled out of the faucet and sorrowfully collected the hair on the ground back to its head. Knock, knock, knock. Anyone there? Zhongli knocked on the first bathroom door. Seeing no response, Zhongli shook his head slightly and moved on to the second stall. Knock, knock, knock. Anyone there? The security guard, or rather, the bus driver, looked terrified, biting his nails repeatedly. Normally, as a ghost, he should be scaring people. But for some reason, he found this tourist particularly horrifying. Please don't find me, please don't find me, please don't find me. The bus driver silently prayed, but sadly, the knocking sound was getting closer and closer. The bus driver was so scared that his soul was about to fly away. Finally, Zhongli reached the last stall which housed the bus driver. Knock, knock, knock. Anyone there? The bus driver clapped his hand over his mouth, not making a sound. Zhongli knocked for a while, then gave up, but the bus driver still dared not move. He looked upward at the stall partition, fearing that the visitor might climb over it. After waiting for quite a while, and seeing no move from the other party, the bus driver breathed a sigh of relief, reckoning that the other party had probably given up. That would make sense, the visitor was human after all, how could he possibly climb over here? The bus driver wanted to push the door and leave, but just as his hand was about to reach the door lock, he was still somewhat uneasy. What if the visitor had not left? He cautiously lowered his head and peeked outside through the gap in the bathroom door. Then he saw Zhongli also lowering his head, grinning wide and showing off his 8 teeth, looking directly at him. Ghost! The bus driver's anguished scream echoed in the corridor. Are there no more ghosts? Wen Qinger's heart was thumping wildly, she wrapped herself tightly in a blanket, as if the tighter she wrapped, the more secure she would feel. After running away from the bus driver, she was at her wit's end, so she randomly ran about, and somehow ended up in the dormitory. With all the recent scares, she was distracted and wanted to sleep, but once she got into bed and covered herself with the blanket, she realized that she was unable to sleep. Who could sleep in such an environment? If you could, then that would be eerie. Moreover, she always felt that someone was in the dormitory, silently watching her. She looked around but found no traces of ghosts. Where could it be? Wen Qinger felt a slight itch in her stomach, like a bug crawling across it. This place obviously hasn't been cleaned in a while, it wouldn't surprise me if it had bugs. Wen Qinger wasn't actually scared of bugs and was about to lift her blanket to throw the bug out. But when she lifted the blanket, she saw a ghost girl lying on her body, looking at Wen Qinger with 2 green eyes that resembled will-o'-the-wisps. Ah! Wen Qinger screamed in fear. Zhongli came in as she moved the cover off of Wen Qinger's bed and picked the girl ghost up and tossed her out. It was all done as naturally as water flowing, very smoothly. Wen Quan snickered on the sly. Elder Zhang had been standing outside the door for 10 minutes and only came in when he heard his sister scream. It was all supposedly to build up his sister's courage. However, Wen Quan didn't object to Zhongli's behavior at all. Chapter 558. The Game of Spirit Pen. Wen Qinger's reaction reminded Zhongli of Gigi from 500 years ago. When they were all in school together, Zhongli often told Gigi ghost stories that frightened him so much, he dared not to sleep. Later, when Gigi became the Zhou Emperor, he retold these ghost stories to his children in remembrance of that shameful period. Ji Kongkong is scared of ghosts, a fear that ultimately traces back to Zhongli. Ghosts aren't scary at all. Everyone in the underworld is very kind to me. I've had the chance to spar with some of the high-ranking spirits there, and everyone was pleased with the results. Wen Qinger remained steadfast, her fear of ghosts unshaken. Zhongli could only shake his head and smile, finding Wen Qinger more and more like Gigi from the past. Let's go. This dormitory building isn't a good place to hang around, it's damp and dirty, not suitable for sleeping. Wen Quan leaned close to his sister, whispering, the reason Mr. Zhang says there's no good reason to stay here is because we've been through all the haunted spots just now. Mr. Zhang has arranged for me to sleep next to you, with bunk beds. I was sleeping on the bottom bunk when the phone suddenly rang. The caller ID was gibberish, and the voice on the phone kept repeating, good brothers back to back, good brothers back to back. I didn't understand what it meant. That's when Mr. Zhang squatted down and dragged out a ghost from under the bed. It was a male ghost, face down, back to me. Wen Qinger shivered involuntarily at the thought of her younger brother unknowingly sleeping back to back with a ghost. Besides, there were things like ghosts slashing your neck when you wash your hair facing a pool, a girl student being locked in a cabinet by her girlfriend and turning into a vengeful ghost, locking whoever comes along into the cabinet too. I've experienced all these with Mr. Zhang, Wen Quan nonchalantly explained. The more time he spent with Zhongli, the braver he got. You better move quickly, Mr. Zhang has already left us behind. Wen Qinger reminded him. Scared, Wen Quan immediately grabbed his sister's hand, hurrying after Zhongli. His courage was only valid in Zhongli's presence. Zhongli arrived at another teaching building and stopped in front of a desk. There were a few lines of text written beside the desk. A man in a black robe walked out from the shadows, crystal ball in hand. He laughed and asked, do you want to play a spirit pen game? Reaching here means you've overcome many difficulties and have broken through the ghost house blockade. This is your reward for reaching the end of the College of the Supernatural. No additional charges apply. What are the rules of the game? The black-robed man explained, the spirit pen is all-knowing. All 3 of you hold a pen together, recite the mantra, spirit pen, you were my past, I am your present. If our fate continues, please draw a circle on the paper, to summon the spirit pen. Take turns asking questions. The spirit pen will provide answers twice. But remember, if anyone lets go during the game, the spirit pen will possess that person and bring misfortune. Mr. Zhang, do you want to play? Wen Quan asked. With a serious look, Zhang Li responded, I'm not interested in playing. I just want to meet the spirit pen. Oh, the trio sat around a table, held a pen together, and simultaneously chanted, Spirit pen, you were my past, I am your present. If our fate continues, please draw a circle on the paper. Suddenly, the brush started to tremble slightly and scribbled on the paper, you're out of my league. Then the connection was cut off. Zhang Li felt he might be somewhat responsible for the situation. You two recite the mantra, I won't. After the black-robed man replaced the pen, the spirit pen game officially began. Chinger, you ask the first question. Are you really a spirit pen? Without anyone forcing the pen, it moved naturally on the paper, writing the character for, yes. Wen Quan gave his sister a scornful look, considering her question a waste of opportunity. Could she not ask something more useful? Offended, Chinger shot Wen Quan a look, signaling, let's see what kind of question you can ask. Wen Quan replied with a look that said, just wait and see. Clearing his throat, Wen Quan asked, every completely polynomial time non-deterministic problem can be transformed into a category of logic operation problems known as satisfiability problems. Since the potential answers to these problems can all be calculated in polynomial time, is there a deterministic algorithm for this category of problems that can directly compute or search for the correct answer in polynomial time? The spirit pen remained silent for a while before slowly writing, ask something I can understand. What's listed on next semester's final exams? Wen Quan changed the question. This time, the spirit pen replied quickly, don't cheat, next question. Without a second thought, Zhang Li asked, where is the immortal realm? The spirit pen was silent even longer than before, finally scribbling out, if I knew where the immortal realm was, I'd have ascended long ago. The three looked disgruntledly at the black-robed man. What happened to the all-knowing spirit pen you promised? Why don't you answer our questions? The black-robed man defensively replied, could you honestly say that any of your questions were normal? Oh, madam, no need to raise your hand, I know that your question was. Zhang Li and Wen Quan ignored him and continued playing the game. It was Wen Chinger who asked first. Spirit pen, I am a minor actress, how can I improve my popularity? Hire a troll army, create gossip, buy trending search ranks. Wen Chinger was taken aback by the spirit pen's answer because it was not the method she desired. Wen Quan asked, Spirit pen, can you tell me the fastest method to make money? Criminal law has them all. Finally, Zhang Li asked a useful question. Where is the Skull Demon Lord? The atmosphere stiffened. Zhang Li wasn't in a hurry, he waited in silence. After a long time, a sigh sounded through the air. A haze formed at the stem of the pen, taking a human shape. The once arrogant and half-domineering Skull Demon Lord had become slow-moving and mellow. The Skull Demon Lord bowed before Zhang Li. Junior Skull greets the powerful being from the immortal realm. His inability to see through Zhang Li meant that Zhang Li was a celestial immortal. The figure of Taoist hymning appeared behind Wen Quan, with a complex look upon seeing the Skull Demon Lord again. I knew it, the owner of this haunted house wouldn't be the style of the sorrowful true man, it is more like something you would do. Hymning, the two leading figures of the orthodox and unorthodox factions stood face to face, silent for a long time. The black-robed man didn't expect this reaction from the Skull Demon Lord. He hesitated and asked, Master, who exactly are these people? Let me introduce. This is my disciple from the world, and the owner of this haunted house. Disciple, this is Taoist hymning that your master always mentions. The one next to him is someone your master can't see through, probably an immortal wandering the world. Zhang Li laughed and said, my name is Zhang Li, and I come from the JoJo world. Chapter 559, The Game of Spirit Pen. Wen Chinger's reaction reminded Zhang Li of Gigi from 500 years ago. When they were all in school together, Zhang Li often told Gigi ghost stories that frightened him so much, he dared not to sleep. Later, when Gigi became the Zhou Emperor, he retold these ghost stories to his children in remembrance of that shameful period. Ji Kongkong is scared of ghosts, a fear that ultimately traces back to Zhang Li. Ghosts aren't scary at all. Everyone in the underworld is very kind to me. I've had the chance to spar with some of the high-ranking spirits there, and everyone was pleased with the results. Wen Chinger remained steadfast, her fear of ghosts unshaken. Zhang Li could only shake his head and smile, finding Wen Chinger more and more like Gigi from the past. Let's go. This dormitory building isn't a good place to hang around, it's damp and dirty, not suitable for sleeping. Wen Quan leaned close to his sister, whispering, the reason Mr. Zhang says there's no good reason to stay here is because we've been through all the haunted spots just now. Mr. Zhang has arranged for me to sleep next to you, with bunk beds. I was sleeping on the bottom bunk when the phone suddenly rang. The caller ID was gibberish, and the voice on the phone kept repeating, good brothers back to back, good brothers back to back. I didn't understand what it meant. That's when Mr. Zhang squatted down and dragged out a ghost from under the bed. It was a male ghost, face down, back to me. Wen Qinger shivered involuntarily at the thought of her younger brother unknowingly sleeping back to back with a ghost. Besides, there were things like ghosts slashing your neck when you wash your hair facing a pool, a girl student being locked in a cabinet by her girlfriend and turning into a vengeful ghost, locking whoever comes along into the cabinet too. I've experienced all these with Mr. Zhang, Wen Quan nonchalantly explained. The more time he spent with Zhang Li, the braver he got. You better move quickly, Mr. Zhang has already left us behind. Wen Qinger reminded him. Scared, Wen Quan immediately grabbed his sister's hand, hurrying after Zhang Li. His courage was only valid in Zhang Li's presence. Zhang Li arrived at another teaching building and stopped in front of a desk. There were a few lines of text written beside the desk. A man in a black robe walked out from the shadows, crystal ball in hand. He laughed and asked, do you want to play a spirit pen game? Reaching here means you've overcome many difficulties and have broken through the ghost house blockade. This is your reward for reaching the end of the College of the Supernatural. No additional charges apply. What are the rules of the game? The black-robed man explained, the spirit pen is all-knowing. All three of you hold a pen together, recite the mantra, spirit pen, you were my past, I am your present. If our fate continues, please draw a circle on the paper, to summon the spirit pen. Take turns asking questions. The spirit pen will provide answers twice. But remember, if anyone lets go during the game, the spirit pen will possess that person and bring misfortune. Mr. Zhang, do you want to play? Wen Quan asked. With a serious look, Zhang Li responded, I'm not interested in playing. I just want to meet the spirit pen. Oh, the trio sat around a table, held a pen together, and simultaneously chanted, spirit pen, you were my past, I am your present. If our fate continues, please draw a circle on the paper. Suddenly, the brush started to tremble slightly and scribbled on the paper, you're out of my league. Then the connection was cut off. Zhang Li felt he might be somewhat responsible for the situation. You two recite the mantra, I won't. After the black-robed man replaced the pen, the spirit pen game officially began. Qinger, you ask the first question. Are you really a spirit pen? Without anyone forcing the pen, it moved naturally on the paper, writing the character for, yes. Wen Quan gave his sister a scornful look, considering her question a waste of opportunity. Could she not ask something more useful? Offended, Qinger shot Wen Quan a look, signaling, let's see what kind of question you can ask. Wen Quan replied with a look that said, just wait and see. Clearing his throat, Wen Quan asked, every completely polynomial time non-deterministic problem can be transformed into a category of logic operation problems known as satisfiability problems. Since the potential answers to these problems can all be calculated in polynomial time, is there a deterministic algorithm for this category of problems that can directly compute or search for the correct answer in polynomial time? The spirit pen remained silent for a while before slowly writing, ask something I can understand. What's listed on next semester's final exams? Wen Quan changed the question. This time, the spirit pen replied quickly, don't cheat, next question. Without a second thought, Zhang Li asked, where is the immortal realm? The spirit pen was silent even longer than before, finally scribbling out, if I knew where the immortal realm was, I'd have ascended long ago. The three looked disgruntledly at the black-robed man. What happened to the all-knowing spirit pen you promised? Why don't you answer our questions? The black-robed man defensively replied, could you honestly say that any of your questions were normal? Oh, madam, no need to raise your hand, I know that your question was. Zhang Li and Wen Quan ignored him and continued playing the game. It was Wen Qinger who asked first. Spirit pen, I am a minor actress, how can I improve my popularity? Hire a troll army, create gossip, buy trending search ranks. Wen Qinger was taken aback by the spirit pen's answer because it was not the method she desired. Wen Quan asked, spirit pen, can you tell me the fastest method to make money? Criminal law has them all. Finally, Zhongli asked a useful question. Where is the Skull Demon Lord? The atmosphere stiffened. Zhongli wasn't in a hurry, he waited in silence. After a long time, a sigh sounded through the air. A haze formed at the stem of the pen, taking a human shape. The once arrogant and half-domineering Skull Demon Lord had become slow-moving and mellow. The Skull Demon Lord bowed before Zhongli. Junior Skull greets the powerful being from the immortal realm. His inability to see through Zhongli meant that Zhongli was a celestial immortal. The figure of Taoist Himing appeared behind Wen Quan, with a complex look upon seeing the Skull Demon Lord again. I knew it, the owner of this haunted house wouldn't be the style of the sorrowful true man, it is more like something you would do. Himing, the two leading figures of the orthodox and unorthodox factions stood face to face, silent for a long time. The black-robed man didn't expect this reaction from the Skull Demon Lord. He hesitated and asked, Master, who exactly are these people? Let me introduce. This is my disciple from the world, and the owner of this haunted house. Disciple, this is Taoist Himing that your master always mentions. The one next to him is someone your master can't see through, probably an immortal wandering the world. Zhongli laughed and said, My name is Zhongli, and I come from the JoJo world. Chapter 560. Are these the experiences a high school graduate should have? My name is Zhongli, and I hail from JoJo world. It is indeed from JoJo world. The skeletal devil lord was about to express his admiration and praise for JoJo world but was interrupted by Zhongli. That's enough, Taoist Himing already spoke about it once, you don't need to repeat it. Oh, if you are not from the immortal realm, how is your strength so unfathomable? I opened up a new realm, called Mahayana realm, following the Transcendence Tribulation stage. What? The reactions of Skeletal Devil Lord and Taoist Himing were very similar. The more powerful they were, the better they could comprehend what Zhongli's brief remark meant. Becoming an immortal was no longer the only pursuit. The uniqueness of the immortal realm was shattered. This was a matter that could pierce the heavens. The Skeletal Devil Lord had met Earth immortals before, but none were as terrifying as Zhongli. This great figure from JoJo might even surpass the heavenly talents of heavenly immortals. Is the immortal realm aware of this? Skeletal Devil Lord asked cautiously. They probably don't know yet. Skeletal Devil Lord nodded. The immortal realm should be unaware of this. If the immortal realm knew there were people who were not immortals but were stronger than immortals, they would definitely send immortals to besiege Zhongli. This was inevitable. If Earth immortals could not manage, then heavenly immortals would be called. If heavenly immortals could not cope, then golden immortals would be summoned. No matter how strong the Mahayana realm was, it could not conquer the massive immortal realm. The ghost house owner lifted his hood, revealing a somewhat immature face. He was puzzled, as these individuals obviously did not resemble ordinary people. He assumed his master would typically avoid them. But this time, his master did not take any action and let them come over. So, there was such a big shot within these individuals. It was no wonder his master reacted in this way. Yongping, so this is your ghost house. Wen Quan recognized the identity of the ghost house owner. I was wondering why he looked so familiar. Isn't this your high school desk mate, Yongping? He even visited our house before. Wen Qinger slapped her forehead, recalling. We haven't seen you since graduating from high school. You didn't answer our calls, and we heard that you got into a great college but didn't attend. Everyone thought you had disappeared. Seeing his old classmates, Yongping felt a sense of nostalgia. He sighed and said, Originally, I was admitted to a good university. However, just before the school started, my parents met with an accident during an outing. They were involved in a car accident, and this ghost house is their only legacy. This is my master's spirit possessing my body. He said that my parents' deaths were not accidents. They discovered a terrible secret, and a certain scientific research company wanted to eliminate them. And the research company, fearing that my parents had told me their secret, wanted to get rid of me as well. The only way to resolve this issue was to become stronger. Under my master's guidance, I managed to avoid the pursuit of the research company, used the ghost house to collect negative energy, and simultaneously cultivated other techniques. My strength surged rapidly. I also fought against the mutant people of the research company. These mutants were extremely powerful. The strongest among them was at the peak of chi cultivation, which according to martial arts rankings, is a top-notch master. The research company intended to create controllable mutant soldiers to sell and become a leading military power. I invaded the basement of the research company and engaged in a life-and-death battle with the mutants. I, being at the peak of chi cultivation, fought against the 5 strongest mutants. I used my ultimate skill, suppressed the 5 mutants, and thought I had everything under control. But then, the executives of the research company injected the mutants with a new type of drug, which greatly increased their strength, making their physical bodies comparable to the Foundation establishment stage. Perhaps because the new drug didn't go through proper testing, the emotions of the mutants were extremely unstable, and they were no longer under the control of the research company. I couldn't manage 5 mutants with the physical strength of the Foundation establishment stage. Just then, I had a breakthrough in battle, and my chi cultivation achieved the peak, perfecting my Foundation establishment, and it was the perfect heavenly Foundation establishment. Once I reached the Foundation establishment stage, I could use more divine skills and effortlessly deal with the 5 mutants. In the end, I successfully thwarted the research company's plans, punished the culprits, and avenged my parents. After everything ended, I continued to run the ghost house and lived an ordinary life. Wen Quan. The experience of his classmate was extraordinarily exciting. Could a high school graduate really go through all this? Compared to that, Wen Quan found himself to be pretty ordinary, having an unusually beautiful sister, knowing Taoist hymning, and knowing the sage, Zhang Li. Wen Qinger felt that these two were desk mates indeed, as their experiences were incredibly extraordinary. What's your cultivation level now? Late Foundation establishment stage, just a step away from the Golden Core stage. My master asked me to take some time to consolidate it, which will then prove to be beneficial for my cultivation after reaching the Golden Core stage. What about you? Having Taoist hymning as a mentor, and being guided by the pioneer of this new realm, what level have you reached? 4th layer of Qi cultivation. Forget that I asked. That hurts even more when you put it that way. Skeletal Devil, this doesn't sound like you. The colleagues from the mutual aid group told me that you have established a destruction alliance, and the person managing the ghost house was the sorrowful Taoist. Upon mentioning this, the Skeletal Devil Lord's expression changed. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell this was a manifestation of melancholy. Hymning, you and I are both tribulation crossing cultivators, and we both have the objective of becoming strong. I never asked you this before, and I don't intend to ask you now either. What I want to say is, I became strong to protect my family. For that, I wasn't afraid to stain my hands with blood and become an intimidating devil lord. Quote. But even so, in the end, it was all for naught. I was helpless against the monstrous earth immortal that devoured my master. The monster wreaked havoc, and I could only watch as my wife and child were brutally killed. I was helpless. Can you understand the pain of this experience? I don't know what you've realized or created that allows spirits above the nascent soul stage to avoid going to the underworld for reincarnation for a while. For this, I'm sincerely grateful. Thanks to you, the spirits of my wife and child came with me to this new world. As a devil lord, Skeletal Devil Lord naturally had ways to enhance the strength of his wife and child. After arriving in the heart-melting world, I had no intention of striving for world hegemony or of destroying the world, as these tasks are simply too tiresome. I just wanted to find a quiet place to spend the rest of my life. For this reason, I came to the ghost house and possessed the owner's body. My wife and children also became part of the ghost house, using negative emotions to recover their strength. The sorrowful Taoist was part of the devil cultivation world, and Skeletal Devil Lord knew his techniques. Later, people from the Destruction Alliance approached me, hoping that I would come out of retirement and provide support. I rejected them. The people from the Destruction Alliance claimed that I joined them, but I didn't pay them any mind. People from the mutual aid group also approached me, wanting to know where the Skeletal Devil Lord was. I found it too troublesome and didn't want to get involved in these two groups' disputes. So, I claimed to be the sorrowful Taoist, remained neutral, and refused to involve myself in their conflicts or to offer any help. Taoist hymning could understand Skeletal Devil Lord's actions. He had seen many people who had experienced extreme despair and lost faith in life, but he never expected that Skeletal Devil Lord would be one of them.